Chapter 90. Outside the cave, the cold wind howled, and the temperature had already dropped to minus 50 degrees Celsius, or even lower. The sandstorm was especially strong, blowing up fist-sized rocks all over the place, and it was enough to cause people to bleed. In this kind of weather, even if they were wearing mechs, they would still die. Even deep inside the cave, Serene and Luohan felt extremely cold. They hugged each other to keep warm, and even covered themselves with hay, but they were still shivering from the cold. In this kind of weather, staying outside is a sure way to die. I wonder how many examinees have successfully found a cave to hide like us? Serene sighed. If not for following Zhongli, even if they found a cave, they would still be eaten by criminals like Wang Changrong. On Rakshasa Planet, there were criminals in the depths of every habitable cave. Who knew how many criminals had been exiled on this planet in the past 100 years? Every year, there were tens of millions of criminals released on this planet to fend for themselves. Those who survived were as rare as phoenix feathers and cheetah horns, and those who could survive were definitely ruthless people. However, Zhongli was not cold at all. His cells absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and also absorbed the energy from the wormhole. He vaguely felt like he was immune to cold and heat. At least his ability to survive was much stronger than the average person. Even Wang Changrong could not compare to him. He slowly practiced the Great Emperor Wind Seal and Great Emperor Thunder Seal. Wang Changrong, who was in another cave, watched very carefully, not letting go of any movement. It is indeed a peerless martial art. After watching him practice, Wang Changrong sighed. Every movement is natural and impossible to modify. There are no loopholes in the entire set of martial arts. I wonder what kind of genius came up with this. Thunder Seal vibrates, exterminates demons. Wind Seal is fast, and time passes. This kind of martial arts, only my Wang family's ancestor, Wang Chao, could create it. You've seen your ancestor? Zhongli quickly asked. Wang Chao was the martial arts emperor of the country 200 years ago. Many of the current martial arts theories were proposed by him. In the eyes of many experts, he was like a god. No, Wang Changrong said. Even I don't know if old ancestor is dead or alive. However, old ancestor's physical body and mental state have reached an unimaginable level, so he shouldn't die so easily. According to our family's records, his vitality was already in the 3 digits more than 100 years ago. He was the first human on Earth to break through the 3 digits. When he broke through, he disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he went. 3-digit vitality. Zhongli couldn't imagine how strong such a person could be. Have you ever seen a 3-digit expert? Just how powerful are they? Right now, Zhongli's vitality was 2, which was already extremely powerful. He could break a big iron ball with 1 punch and cover 100 meters in 3 seconds, which was equivalent to Superman. However, compared to the experts in the double digits, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. What was 3 digits? He couldn't explain. I haven't seen it before. However, my old ancestor once did a nuclear explosion experiment. He stood in the center of the explosion and walked out unscathed. The experts in the elite zone also did human nuclear explosion experiments in the past few decades. Wang Changrong shook his head. Human nuclear explosion experiments? Zhongli had heard of it before, but he couldn't imagine it. The temperature in the center of a nuclear explosion could vaporize any matter. The temperature was over 20 million degrees Celsius, or even over 100 million degrees Celsius. Humans were made of flesh and blood. How could they survive in that? Even a mountain would be melted. However, the mysteries of the human body were very powerful. In his memories from the Dream Heart Sutra, the experts in that world could even overturn rivers and seas. I was greatly inspired by your wind and lightning martial arts. To return the favor, I will show you the Wang clan's 8-trigram wind lightning palm. As he spoke, Wang Changrong stood up and suddenly attacked. One hand was a lightning palm, the other a wind palm. Look carefully. The left hand is thunder, the right hand is wind. Thunder is yang, wind is yin. Multitasking, wind and thunderburst. Our Wang clan's 8-trigram wind lightning palm is a pair of yin and yang. Water and fire are a pair of yin and yang. Heaven and earth are a pair of yin and yang. Wind and thunder are a pair of yin and yang. Mountains and lakes are a pair of yin and yang. I see that your wind and lightning seal doesn't have yin and yang. What a pity. Such a good martial art. If you could use thunder in the left hand and wind in the right, it would be perfect. Its power would increase by several times. His body seemed to be divided into two halves. One was hard and the other was soft. They alternated and fought to the extreme. The airflow formed a circle in the cave. In the middle, there was an shaped curve. Look carefully. Yin and yang switch. Wind in the left hand and thunder in the right. Suddenly, he changed the hand that was originally using the lightning palm to use the wind palm. Using the wind palm to perform the lightning palm. The change between hard and soft made people unable to figure out the changes. Amazing! Zhongli finally realized that the wind and lightning martial arts had such a profound meaning. Switching between hard and soft, fighting left and right, yin and yang endless, it was natural. He couldn't use wind in one hand and thunder in the other. When he used thunder, he couldn't use wind, and when he used wind, he couldn't use thunder. Not to mention changing hands while fighting, switching between yin and yang. His martial art cultivation was clearly not as good as Wang Changrong's. After a set of fist techniques, Wang Changrong sat down and sighed, "I've been on Rakshasa Star for over 10 years, and my martial arts cultivation has soared. My mind has also increased by a level, but it's useless. The damage to my body is too great. The cultivation of the mind and the body complement each other and can't be done without one." In the ancient times, Lu Dongbin said that only cultivating one's nature and not one's fate is the first disease of cultivation. Only cultivating one's nature and not one's core, it is hard for one to enter the saint realm. Thinking back to my ancestor Wang Chao's cultivation in the past, he was almost invincible. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of time, he was unable to display his abilities. Later on, he obtained the technology from the fallen human ship and his body strengthened. He immediately showed his divinity and even surpassed it. If I could go out at this time and obtain resources, my cultivation would soar. At night, the old and young discussed martial arts in the cave in high spirits. Although Zhongli was on guard against this person, he had obtained many precious experiences from him. He couldn't help but admire his cultivation in martial arts. They talked all the way until midnight. Wang Changrong waved his hand. "I'm going to cultivate. There will be a new challenge tomorrow, so I won't waste time with you here. I'm also going to cultivate." Zhongli sat down cross-legged and said to Luohan and Shirin, "If you're cold, then hug me. My body should have some warmth." "Great." Shirin immediately let go of Luohan and hugged Zhongli. She instantly felt that his body temperature was very high and warm. "It really is very warm." Luohan hesitated a bit. Seeing Shirin hugging Zhongli, her expression was a bit uncomfortable. "What are you worried about at this time? If something happens to your body because of the cold, you'll die here and be eaten by others." Zhongli looked at her shivering in the cold and smiled. "Why don't you come over?" Luohan softly responded and also came over to hug Zhongli. She and Shirin leaned on each side of him. Everything was for survival. At this time, Zhongli began to meditate. This was the first time he meditated to rest. After killing Yumuhua and Jianglu during the day, he had been running around. Only now did he have a good rest. Deep sleep could allow the body to get a comprehensive rest, and meditating was even more magical. Jiangli wanted to meditate to see if there was anything that needed to be adjusted in his endocrine system. However, as soon as he meditated, the first thing he noticed was the milky white stone. Because he had absorbed the energy from the wormhole 3 times, a pattern had appeared on the stone hanging on his chest. Zhongli was still unable to comprehend the mysteries behind these patterns, but when his mental force radiated onto the milky white stone, the entire stone suddenly moved. Zhongli felt as if a door was slowly opening within it, and behind the door was actually a space. This space was about 3 meters high and more than 100 square meters. It was real and not an illusion. "What? Space?" He was stunned. His spiritual power suddenly weakened, and the door of space immediately disappeared. There was a space in the milky white stone. This was an amazing discovery. Perhaps the milky white stone had absorbed the energy from the wormhole and created a space. Moreover, to open this space, one needed to enter a meditative state of mind. Jiangli knew that as long as he entered a meditative state, he could open all kinds of mysteries of the milky white stone. Sure enough, now that he had opened the space inside, there were too many benefits. Having a space of 3 meters high and more than 100 square meters was equivalent to carrying a house with him. In any novel, there were space bags and Shinkoin bags. Nowadays, humans are also researching space folding technology. In fact, the wormhole jumping technology was a derivative of space folding technology. However, things like space bags, even the technology in the elite zone had not been able to research it, and it was still in the experimental stage. But Jiangli could use the milky white stone to have such a large space, and this was a big strategic secret. Wow, if I continue to do wormhole jumping, will the space in this stone become bigger every time I absorb it? Jiangli thought, and once again entered a meditative state to observe the mysteries of the milky white stone. This time, he entered dreamland. Dream of 1,000 autumns. What year is it today? The voice rang out again. In the dream, the man in white appeared again and smiled at Jiangli. Congratulations, you have finally seen through life and death and reached the first realm of cultivation and stepped into the door of cultivation. Now that you have become the owner of the Dream Heart Sutra, you can start the cultivation of the Great Emperor's Fire Seal, but this time, your spiritual power will be absorbed, and it will take you 49 days to recover. Do you want to start? Let the Dream Heart Sutra absorb your spiritual power? No, don't start. Jiangli quickly sent out a thought. How could this be? Being weak for 47 days was better than dying. Rakshasa Star was such a dangerous environment. Even being weak for a minute could lead to disaster. Although the Great Emperor's Fire Seal was very tempting, now was not the time to cultivate. In that case, come back when you have made your choice. As the man in white spoke, he slowly disappeared. Jiangli woke up from his meditation and thought about everything that had happened. He had already understood some of the situation. The milky white stone itself was a treasure, and the Dream Heart Sutra was a cultivation method that a supreme master had imbued spiritual power into. Both of them had secrets, but these secrets were not something he could understand. The benefit of his meditation this time was that he could open the space in the milky white stone and store items. He just didn't know if he could store people inside. He once again sent his spirit force in, and the space gradually opened up. He carefully explored it and realized that there was temporarily no air inside. It was a kind of vacuum state, but after it was opened, it could communicate with the outside world and air would flow in. It could also store living things. It was equivalent to a house of over 100 square meters. Chapter 91. For the whole night, Jiangli was immersed in the mysteries of meditation. His thoughts were released and then retracted. Nothing around him could escape his eyes and ears. His thoughts were now focused on himself and could scan everything within a 1-kilometer radius. The weather outside was getting colder and colder. He used his thoughts to detect the temperature and knew that his saliva would turn into ice cubes and fall to the ground. The howling wind was getting stronger and stronger, cutting through the ground like a sharp knife. Even rocks weighing tens of kilograms were blown up. Some of the rocks collided in the air and exploded into powder. The whole mountain was shaking as if it could be blown away at any time. With this kind of wind, I think it should be at least level 20. Jiangli was in awe of nature's power, but he wanted to challenge it. He radiated his spirit and merged with the cold wind outside to feel the supreme mystery of the great monarch's wind seal. He was meditating on the cosmic storm and the natural wind. His mind was connected, and he was in a state of cultivation at all times. The heaven and earth spiritual energy that he had absorbed in the past formed a subtle cycle in his cells, which could resist the cold and keep his body warm. This made Serene and Luohan, who were hugging him, fall into a deep sleep. They also entered a deep sleep to recover their energy. Fortunately, He had absorbed a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy on planet Crooked Wave and stored it in his cells, which allowed him to maintain his body temperature. While resisting the cold, it could also be converted into nutrients. This thing was similar to fat. For example, a hibernating bear would not eat or drink during the winter and would rely on fat to maintain its life. Of course, the quality of heaven and earth spiritual energy was 10,000 times better than fat. TSK. Heaven and earth spiritual energy. Wang Changrong was constantly observing Jiang Li's cultivation and noticed the circulation of heaven and earth spiritual energy in his body. With this thing in his body, he could completely not eat or drink for a month. Did he use spirit stones before coming here? Those who could get spirit stones are the absolute geniuses of the big families. He did not know that Jiang Li had used his embryonic breathing to absorb it on planet Crooked Wave. A few hours passed quickly. Jiang Li suddenly opened his eyes and felt that the cold wind outside was much weaker. There was light leaping from the horizon, and the temperature was rising by the minute. -30°C, 20°C, 10°C, and then it rose to above 0, 10°C, 20°C, 30°C. Within an hour, the temperature outside reached 40°C. He couldn't go out at this time because the temperature change was too great. Flesh and blood couldn't bear it. The temperature in the cave had also risen to about 20°C. When Luohan and Serene woke up and saw that they were hugging Jiang Li, their faces blushed and they quickly let go. Whoosh! At this time, a figure came out of the cave. It was Wang Changrong. Kid, I have to remind you that the temperature outside is only 40 degrees. It is the best time to go to the lake to get water. When the temperature rises to 60 degrees, it will be difficult to get water. Wang Changrong was carrying a few water bottles. Every morning, he would go to the lake dozens of kilometers away to fetch water and bring it back. The temperature in the day was extremely hot, and the cave was also unbearable. He had to consume a large amount of water, and these water bottles were obtained from the examinees he killed. I'm going to get some water too. You guys can rest in this cave. When Jiang Li heard about getting water, he wanted to fly out as well. We'll go with you. Serene and Luohan immediately stood up. No need. If you guys follow me, your speed will be slower. Stay in the cave and guard it. Don't let anyone come in. The location of our cave is very good, and there will definitely be people coming to snatch it. Jiang Li said solemnly. Moreover, you guys have to conserve your energy. The remaining nutrient solution is definitely not enough for a few days. After we finish it, we have to find food again. We can't possibly eat people. This was a serious problem. Although they had obtained Jiang Lu and Yu Muhua's nutrient solution, the three of them could only last for about 10 days. After 10 days, they would run out of food. They couldn't just rely on drinking water to sustain themselves. Moreover, there were no fish in the lake. Where would they find food in the future? Okay, we'll conserve our energy here. Serene took a tube of nutrient solution. Jiang Li drank a mouthful. Braving such a hot temperature to walk dozens of kilometers to fetch water, it will consume a lot of energy. No need. Jiang Li waved his hand. You guys keep this. I'll go get the water first. His body moved, and he had already drilled out of the cave entrance. His speed was very fast, closely following Wang Changrong. Because he was worried that Wang Changrong would turn back halfway and catch the two girls and kill them, he had to be on guard. Junior, your speed is very fast. Wang Changrong kept running on the gravel plain. His speed was no less than a small car, but Jiang Li's speed was even lighter. With a single leap, he could cover 20 to 30 meters. When he bounced in the air, he could reach a height of 2 to 3 meters. On Earth, there was a kind of springbok. Each jump could reach more than 3 meters, a distance of 10 meters, and a speed of 90 kilometers per hour. Sometimes, even cheetahs couldn't catch up with them. However, compared with Jiang Li, they were still much weaker. Although Jiang Li's jump was not high, the distance was not something they could compare with. Moreover, the reason why Jiang Li didn't jump too high was a way to conserve his energy. High jumping did not necessarily mean fast speed. This kind of jump and glide was the fastest. Jiang Li's current speed was about 150 to 200 kilometers per hour, which could completely surpass Cheetah's. However, if he reached 200 kilometers per hour, he could persist for at most an hour before his stamina was exhausted and he could no longer get up. Tu's vitality was strong, but it wasn't a real machine. He was now running with Wang Chongrong at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour, conserving his stamina so that he could deal with experts. On Rakshasa Star, any bit of stamina was very precious. Same to you. Jiang Li used the speed of the great Emperor Wind Seal and kept pace with Wang Chongrong. I'm afraid that you will suddenly turn back and harm the two girls. I said, I won't kill people with Chinese blood. Wang Chongrong said coldly, but your vigilance shows that you are very meticulous. To survive on Rakshasa Star, you can't trust anyone. The two kept jumping and gliding. Every time they jumped, Wang Chongrong spread his arms like a rock spreading its wings. The muscles on his back were connected. This was a way to save stamina. Jiang Li, on the other hand, landed on the ground in a flash, jumped up again, and continued to attack. There was always a lingering sound, like muffled thunder after the sound of thunder. Both had their own mysteries. About half an hour later, the two arrived at the water source. The weather was already very hot. Fortunately, this huge lake cooled the surrounding temperature a lot. Jiang Li couldn't figure out where the water in this big lake came from. The temperature of 60 degrees Celsius every day was enough to evaporate all water, and it was a freshwater lake. There must be a mystery at the bottom of the lake. He arrived at the lake and didn't find anyone fetching water. Wang Chongrong drank a few pots of water on the side. After drinking to his heart's content, he took a bath, combed his hair, and changed his clothes. The clothes belonged to the dead candidate. It didn't fit him, but it still showed his tall and powerful figure. After he was done, he didn't leave. Instead, he sank down and lurked in the grass on the shore, as if waiting for prey to come to him. There was very little prey on Rakshasa Star. Even if there was, it was extremely fierce and large animals with extremely strong survival abilities. Obviously, Wang Chongrong was waiting to prey on the students who came to fetch water. There was only one lake in a radius of thousands of kilometers. Anyone who wanted to drink water had to come here. Jiang Li scanned the area with his thoughts and discovered that the water was indeed very clear. It went from shallow to deep, and near the center of the lake, it was dark green. He couldn't see the bottom, and there seemed to be cold air constantly emitting from the depths of the ground. The fish he saw yesterday had all disappeared. The whole lake was empty, leaving only the water and some water plants on the lakeside. There were no animals, and these water plants couldn't be eaten at all. He moved his body and jumped directly into the lake, gradually entering the deep water area. Then he used his mental power to open the pattern on the milky white stone. Suddenly, a portal slowly opened. Gulp, gulp. A large amount of water poured into this space. After dozens of tons, Jiang Li contracted his mental power and the space portal closed. In this way, he didn't have to walk dozens of kilometers every day to fetch water. In the future, he would have water for bathing. There were no large containers on Rakshasa Star. He couldn't find anything like an iron bucket. There was only a small kettle. Every morning, he would come to the lake to fetch water and then return it to supply his needs for the day. Jiang Li's milky white stone absorbed energy through the wormhole and slowly opened the space. Loading dozens of tons of water didn't increase his weight at all. It was very easy and comfortable to carry around. Because the water was in another space, the mass didn't oppress him. I don't have to worry about water anymore, but food is too scarce. His mental power radiated another kilometer to the bottom of the lake, but he still couldn't see the bottom. He didn't dare to go any further, because he would drown. Unless there was spiritual energy on Rakshasa Star, he could stay in the water forever by absorbing spiritual energy. At the same time, his cell respiration could also absorb oxygen from the water. But obviously not now, so he could only jump ashore again. At this time, he saw many people jumping from a distance, rushing to the lake with a kettle in their hand to fetch water and then take a bath to cool down. They were all students who came to take the exam. They actually escaped the cold wind disaster last night. They must have found a suitable cave to live in. At the same time, Zhongli also saw the exiled gangsters coming from all directions. The lakeside suddenly became a noisy place. Where there is noise, there is killing. Every gangster exiled to Rakshasa Star is a vicious person. They don't hesitate to kill and eat people. This time, these students who came to take the exam are regarded as prey by them. Of course, these students are not to be trifled with. Those who are qualified to take the exam of Starry Sky University are all strong. They will also kill the gangsters in order to survive. Kill! A roar came from not far away. Zhongli saw a group of students fighting with two gangsters. This group of students were tall, fair-skinned, and had thick pores. Obviously, they were of white descent. There were 7 or 8 people in total, but there were only 2 gangsters. Unfortunately, the 2 gangsters were very strong. Their vitality was at least above 1.5, and the vitality of those students was generally between 1.2 and 1.3. But fortunately, one of the student leaders was very strong. He was a white man with a similar temperament to the Phantom Fox. He was gloomy, had a high nose, and his vitality was also 1.5. He blocked the attacks of the 2 gangsters, and the other students assisted him. The 2 sides were evenly matched. Oh. Suddenly, one of the gangsters made a rooster-like sound, jumped up, and punched out. It was a move from the Ghost God Fist, and the other gangster also used another move from the Ghost God Fist, Ghost God Appears. The 2 gangsters together blocked all the escape routes of the white student. The white student was dead for sure. Jiang Li's eyes moved and suddenly kicked out 2 stones with a whistling sound, aiming at the back of the gangster. Chapter 92. Bang! Bang! With 2 loud noises, 2 large holes appeared on the backs of the criminals. They fell to the ground and instantly stopped breathing. The Caucasian student quickly jumped to the side, breathing rapidly. At the same time, he looked at Jiang Li warily. Jiang Li's expression did not change. Although the other party was Caucasian, he was still a student who came to participate in the exam. He still had to save him lest he was killed and eaten by the criminals. All the criminals who were exiled to Rakshasa deserved to die. Even if Wang Changrong said it was because of the resistance, it was not credible. There should be a deeper reason. Otherwise, with the power of the Wang family, they could definitely save him. The 2 criminals with a vitality of 1.5 were strong, but they were no match for Jiang Li. The difference in vitality of 0.1 was huge, and he had a big advantage in physical combat. It was basically impossible to turn the tables in a martial arts competition. After saving the group of Caucasians, he turned around and prepared to return to the cave. He had been out for a long time, and he was worried that something had happened to Serene and Luo Han. Wait! The Caucasian student hurriedly spoke in the mother tongue of Earth. After humanity was unified, many linguists, under the impetus of the government, set up a language department and created the mother tongue of Earth. Everyone had to learn it. However, Jiang Li and the others generally did not speak the mother tongue of Earth. They all spoke the ancient Chinese language. Of course, they could also speak the mother tongue of Earth. What is it? He stopped and replied in the mother tongue of Earth. Thank you for saving us. My name is Henry. The Caucasian student, Henry, expressed his gratitude and went forward to shake hands. He was very friendly. Your vitality is really strong. How high is it? Vitality is not the main thing to survive on Rakshasa. Jiang Li avoided this topic. It was nothing. Don't take it to heart. I'm going back to the cave now. I don't have time to talk here. No one wanted to stay under the intense heat. Wait. Henry quickly waved his hand, and a Caucasian female student next to him handed him a tube of nutrient drink. This is our reward. Thank you for saving our lives. You seem to have a lot of nutrient drinks. Jiang Li looked at these people. Each of them had 3 or 4 tubes. There are more than 50 people in our group, and more than 40 died last night. Harry seemed unwilling to remember. Some were frozen to death, some were killed by criminals, and some were attacked by Rakshasa beasts. We had to risk our lives to kill the criminals and force the beasts to retreat. How tragic! Jiang Li shook his head. My companions also need nutrient drinks, so I'll accept your gratitude. But is there something else you want to talk to me about? He could tell at a glance that Henry and his men had ulterior motives for finding him. It's like this. We found a cave to live in, but that cave is where the Rakshasa beast hides. Every night, the Rakshasa beast will come back and attack us fiercely. I hope to find an expert to help us. A white female student stood up. Hello, my name is Lilith. Hello. Jiang Li's eyes moved. Rakshasa beast? Yes, Rakshasa beast is an extremely ferocious beast on Rakshasa planet. It's good at digging holes, and it's not afraid of the scorching sun. It can dig hundreds of meters into the ground and eat a kind of worm deep underground. It can also survive by absorbing the light of stars. Harry quickly explained, of course, if you can kill one, there's a piece of Rakshasa flesh the size of a fingernail in its body that can be absorbed by the human body. It's also very delicious, so there won't be a lack of food. Jiang Li took out his chip and searched for information on it. There was no network on Rakshasa planet, so no information could be radiated out. However, Jiang Li had downloaded the information of all the planets that Star Sky University could train on. This was basic homework that every student should do. Immediately, the information of the Rakshasa beast appeared on the chip. 1. 3 meters tall, with a pair of black wings, like a bat. It could glide at a height of tens of meters and walk upright. It had a ferocious face, fangs, and scales on its body. It was invulnerable and very difficult to kill. This kind of thing was a bit similar to the little devil in Western mythology, but also somewhat similar to the Rakshasa in Buddhist scriptures. The first humans to land on Rakshasa planet named the planet after Rakshasa. What's more, the scales of the Rakshasa beast could absorb the light energy of the stars, producing something similar to photosynthesis, thus replenishing the body. Therefore, it was fine if the Rakshasa beast didn't eat. On Rakshasa planet, the burning stars were the most suitable for their survival. However, they were also afraid of the cold. When night came, they had to hide in the depths of the cave, otherwise they would freeze to death. Many caves on Rakshasa planet were excavated by them. More importantly, these Rakshasa beasts had a piece of fingernail-sized flesh in their body. It was very delicious and could be eaten. In addition, the scales and flesh of the Rakshasa beast were extremely hard, like steel, and could not be eaten at all. The Rakshasa flesh was where the energy of the body condensed. If they could kill a Rakshasa beast, then the food problem would be solved. Okay, I promise you to live in the cave and kill the Rakshasa beast. Jiang Li immediately agreed. However, I have to go back to my cave first and pick up my 2 companions. I'll go with you. Henry and several Caucasian male and female students quickly said, if you can kill the Rakshasa beast, we can share some of our nutrient drinks with you. Let's go. Jiang Li quickly left the place. He used milky white stones to store dozens of tons of water, so he didn't have to travel a long distance to fetch water every day. This way, he could move freely on Rakshasa planet and didn't have to stay close to the water source. As he spoke, he quickly flew away, and in a few flashes, he was a few kilometers away. Oh my God, he's so fast! A Caucasian female student exclaimed. How much vitality does he have? 17, 18. I think it's more than that. It's a pity that I didn't bring the testing equipment. Henry also ran quickly and followed closely behind, watching Jiang Li's shadow disappear into the distance. Fortunately, there was an endless horizon here, and there were no forks in the road. It was impossible to lose him. After the Rakshasa planet test, we still have to go through some other tests before we can be admitted to Star Sky University. And after we get a place in Star Sky University, there will be a challenge tournament, and Star Sky University will select the top 10 freshmen of each batch. Those are the big shots that attract the attention of the world. I think with his strength, there is hope for him to be in the top 10. Top 10? How is that possible? Lilith was surprised. The top 10 freshmen of Star Sky University are all heaven-defying powerhouses. The average vitality of the top 10 freshmen of the previous batch was above 2. I think this batch of freshmen is even stronger. You have to know that we are only taking the test on Earth. There's still the Mars, Moon, Jupiter, and these are just the humans in the solar system. There are more than 10 planets suitable for human habitation in the entire Milky Way galaxy. And there are also human bases outside the Milky Way galaxy. There are more than 10,000 candidates on Earth, and the total number of human candidates this year is about 500,000. Let's wait and see. I think he has hope, Henry said. Anyway, I have never seen such a strong student. Several Caucasian students ran quickly. Their vitality wasn't weak, and they wouldn't get heat stroke while running in a high temperature because they had just replenished enough water. Dozens of minutes later, Zhongli ran to the front of the cave. Fortunately, nothing happened. Serene and Luohan were still meditating in the depths of the cave to cultivate their strength. At this time, whether it was the students or the gangsters, they all went to get water and didn't have time to snatch the cave. Serene, Luohan, come out, let's change caves. His voice passed into the cave, and with two swishing sounds, the two girls had already come out. Which cave are we going to? Serene looked at the blazing sun and quickly handed Zhongli a big hat made of hay. It could cover his whole body and prevent his skin from being burned by the sun. If human skin was exposed to the outside, a series of blisters would appear after a long period of exposure to the sun, and if it continued, the whole body would crack. You guys made a big hat out of hay so quickly. Zhongli was overjoyed and saw that Luohan also had one. It's a piece of cake. We have nothing to do anyway. Luohan smiled and said, this big straw hat was made by me and Serene for you. How is it? It's sturdy enough, right? It's indeed very sturdy, and it also protects against the sun. The craftsmanship is not bad. Zhongli pulled it and found that the hat was very sturdy. He suddenly realized that although the two girls were rich, they were clever and had good survival skills. We originally wanted to weave straw raincoats, but we didn't have enough time. By the way, our cave is the closest to the water point. Why do we have to find a new cave? Is it because of Wang Changshan? Serene frowned. She didn't want to give up this cave. Wang Changshan is a bit dangerous, so it's best not to get close to him. There's no problem with the water. I've already solved it. I guarantee that you can drink safe water every day, and even bathing is not a problem. What we lack now is food. Drinking nutrient drinks every day can only ensure the necessary vitamins. Zhongli said, we have 30 days to survive, and it's only the first day. We still have a long way to go, so we have to plan early. Where do you plan to go? Luohan looked around and suddenly looked behind him. Someone is approaching. It's okay. It's a group of white students. I saved them, and they gave me a tube of nutrient drink. We have to get to their cave before dark and help them resist the Rakshasa beasts. We can kill the Rakshasa beasts and get their basic meat. Together with the nutrient drink, we'll have food, Zhongli said as he waited. More than 10 minutes later, the group of white students arrived in front of them. Henry smiled and greeted them. Hi, beautiful ladies. I'm Henry, a board member of the Asia-Europe Consortium. It's nice to meet you two beautiful ladies. He immediately showed his gentlemanly demeanor and greeted them in his mother tongue. Hello. When Serene heard the words Asia-Europe Consortium, her eyes flickered. This was one of the big consortiums on Earth, and it was obvious that Henry was the son of one of the big directors. Let's go. Luohan nodded and waved her hand. How far is the cave you live in from here? It's about 100 kilometers from here. We can definitely get there before dark. It's in that direction. I'll lead the way. Henry showed them the way and stopped looking at the beauties. Right now, survival was the most important thing. Chapter 93. Under the scorching sun, the 10 students ran as fast as the wind under their feet. 7 of them were Caucasians and 3 were Asians. Along the way, Zhongli saw many corpses of the students. They were all dried corpses that had been baked by the scorching sun. It was a ghastly sight. Some of the students had collapsed from heat stroke while they were walking. They couldn't get up anymore and died immediately. Some of them were killed and robbed of their nutrient drinks and water bottles. Water bottles were also very important here. If there were a few more bottles, they could fill them up at once. That way, they wouldn't have to go back and forth hundreds of kilometers to collect water in the high temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. It was very dangerous on the way to collect water. Not only would they be exhausted and suffer heat stroke, but they would also be surrounded and killed by others. Zhongli could carry tens of tons of water with him. This was a great advantage. After running for 3 hours, Jiangli finally saw some huge bear mountains. There were many deep caves at the bottom. If it weren't for the students dragging him down, Jiangli would have reached the cave in an hour. Let's enter the cave quickly. It's too painful to be exposed to the scorching sun. Henry waved his hand and wanted to lead everyone into the depths of the cave to avoid the heat. Wait! Jiangli moved his body. He formed a lightning seal with one hand and shouted at the cave with the other, "Come out!" Creak! A sharp sound came from the cave. A black shadow flashed. It was like a huge bat. It swept over with a strong wind. An intense, murderous aura appeared from the black shadow. It made people feel like a demon had descended into the mortal world. Rakshasa beast! Jiangli turned his hand and chopped down, fiercely striking the black figure's body. With his fist strength that could flatten a large iron ball, the black figure only let out a blood-curdling screech as it smashed into a rock. Then it crawled back up and began to display its might. He finally saw the appearance of the Rakshasa beast clearly. It looked like a human. It walked upright and had distinct facial features. However, there were scales on its face. Its fangs were like those of vampires in the movies. It was very ferocious. There was also a pair of black wings on its back. They were strong and strong. When they flapped slightly, they sounded like steel leaves. It really looks like a demon. Anyone who saw this 3-meter-tall Rakshasa beast would have the first impression that it was a demon from hell that had appeared in the human world. Moreover, the Rakshasa beast brain seemed to have an extremely cruel will that wanted to tear apart all living creatures. It was very ferocious, and it had actually resisted Jiang Li's hypnosis just now. It was only slightly dizzy. Moreover, even with his vitality of 2, it did not die from one punch. This showed how tough the Rakshasa beast body was. It was terrifying. The Rakshasa beast bared its teeth and suddenly flew into the sky, as if it was going to pounce down and attack everyone again. Immediately, everyone felt a bloody stench emanating from its body. Amazing! It can actually make people hallucinate. This Rakshasa beast is born with the ability to hypnotize people. No wonder I can't hypnotize it even with my meditation method. But it's still not enough. Don't even think of escaping from my palm. Jiangli had a faint smile on his face. He thought to himself, I'm not an ordinary intermediate hypnotist. Come down. He suddenly activated the brain of the universe. Electricity appeared in his eyes. With him as the center, a thought wave spread out. Everyone present seemed to see his body thousands of feet tall. His hand was like a mountain. He grabbed the Rakshasa beast in the air and caught it. At this moment, the Rakshasa beast that was originally flying in the air seemed to have been grabbed. It kept struggling and landed on the ground. After struggling for a while, its legs gave way and it died. Hypnotizing it to death is indeed 100 times more difficult than hypnotizing an ordinary person. Looking at the dead Rakshasa beast, Jiang Li's expression did not look good. It was extremely difficult to use fists and legs to kill this demon-like beast. Only hypnosis could destroy its brain nerves, but it would consume a lot of mental strength. He estimated that the mental strength needed to hypnotize 100 people would only be enough to hypnotize one Rakshasa beast. With his current realm, hypnotizing 3 to 5 Rakshasa beasts was already his limit. Any more, it would damage his brain cells. You're a hypnotist? And an intermediate hypnotist at that? Harry looked at the dead Rakshasa beast, and his eyeballs almost popped out. The Rakshasa beast is at its strongest in the day. Under the blazing sun, the Rakshasa beast combat power will multiply, and it's much easier to deal with at night. You actually killed it so easily in the day? I see. No wonder your combat power is so strong. Jiang Li went forward to grab the Rakshasa beast. He felt that its body was very heavy. When he tapped it with his fingers, there was a metallic sound. It was like a metal statue and not a body of flesh and blood. The Rakshasa beast's flesh and blood is a type of activated metal. After refining, it is a good material for making battleships and mechas. Luohan went forward to examine it carefully and said, Why did humans build a base on Rakshasa planet? It's because of the resources of a Rakshasa beast. Unfortunately, it's too difficult to capture. Especially in every 10,000 Rakshasa beasts, there will be a leader called a Rakshasa king. This thing can emit spiritual radiation, causing people to have hallucinations that they can't extricate themselves from. Moreover, its attack power is very strong. Normal mid-level mechas can't do anything to it. Large caliber guns can only cause a little damage at most, but the metal-like flesh and blood on its body will quickly recover. As long as it absorbs the light of the stars, it will have an endless supply of energy. There's a piece of basified flesh inside its body. It's the condensation of its entire body's essence. It seems that I can't get it now. Jiangli grabbed with his 5 fingers and wanted to crush the Rakshasa beast, but its body was very hard. Even a diamond couldn't cut a mark on it. He sighed and said, "It seems that I can only wait for the temperature to drop at night, and this metal flesh will gradually soften. Only then can I extract the basified flesh from it." Rakshasa beasts had a special characteristic, which was that they liked high temperatures. No matter how strong the sunlight was, they weren't afraid of it. Instead, they felt very comfortable. However, they were very afraid of the cold. When it was cold, the metal flesh on its body would soften, and its body would become weak. There's no danger in the cave. Jiangli took the lead and went down. He scanned the cave with his mind, and everything inside was vivid in his mind. This cave was more spacious than the cave that Wang Changshan lived in. It was just that it was too far away from the water point. They had to walk more than 100 kilometers to and fro every day. The cave was deep and twisted like a maze. Some of the caves branched off into several paths, and it was easy to get lost inside. However, Jiangli didn't care. He wouldn't get lost at all. His thoughts could radiate outwards, and with himself as the center, he could see everything within a 1-kilometer radius in his mind. Like a mirror, he could see everything clearly. After a while, he found himself in a large stone room. It was about 200 to 300 square meters, 3 meters high, and very spacious. There was hay everywhere. He didn't know which gangster lived here, but he was killed by this group of students and robbed the cave. It's quite comfortable here. The only regret is that it's inconvenient to get water and will be attacked by Rakshasa beasts at night. Many of our companions were killed last night. Harry carried the dead Rakshasa beast in. Without sunlight, its body became softer. Jiang Li's heart skipped a beat. He picked up a pot of water and poured on the Rakshasa beast's body, causing the temperature to drop once again. He used his hands to tear apart the meat, and sure enough, he found a piece of snow-white meat. The fragrance permeated the air, and it was rich in nutrients. He moved his fingernails and tore off a piece the size of a soybean and threw it into his mouth. It melted in his mouth and flowed down his throat like jade liquid into his stomach. His whole body was filled with energy, and even the brain power he used to hypnotize the Rakshasa beast was replenished. "You guys eat some too." Jiangli gave it to Luohan and Sharon. "It tastes good." This piece of meat was only the size of a fingernail. The 3 of them ate a little each. Harry and the other students swallowed their saliva, but they could only watch from the side. This was because this Rakshasa beast was killed by Jiang Li, so it should be his to enjoy. Moreover, a large number of Rakshasa beasts would attack at night, and they still had to rely on Jiang Li to defend. This thing is really nutritious, and it's good for brain cells. After Luohan ate it, she explained, "Rakshasa beasts are good at hypnosis and creating illusions. This small piece of meat actually contains all the energy that it absorbed from the stars. The protein, fat, and water in it are all compressed by powerful energy and mutated. The super protein of humans can't compare to this at all. Not again." Sharon was helpless. She teased, "Sister, aren't you tired? You're still here." Luohan stared at her and was about to strangle Sharon's neck. Jiang Li quickly pulled them away and laughed. "All right, you guys are tired too. Have a good rest." Previously, Jiang Li had injected a tube of super protein that cost 100,000 star dollars, and his stamina had increased greatly. However, that super protein could not be compared to the protein contained in the Rakshasa beast meat. Water. He actually used precious water to cool down. A few Caucasian female students saw Jiangli pour a pot of water on the Rakshasa beast and felt that it was a waste. They cried out in pity. Such a waste of water. When night falls, the Rakshasa beast's body will automatically soften. Jiangli remained calm and ignored the few Caucasian female students. He had the space to store water, so he didn't have to worry about running out of water. However, he couldn't expose it either. He would secretly fill another pot later. All right, let's rest. Everyone is tired after a long journey under the sun. We have to conserve our energy. There will be a tough battle at night. Harry instructed, prepare the stones and block the cave entrance. Otherwise, the Rakshasa beasts will swarm in at night, and we will suffer heavy casualties like yesterday. Of course, the Rakshasa beast's claws were sharp and could easily tear the stones apart. However, it could be used as a buffer. Of course, the Rakshasa beast's claws were sharp and could easily tear the rocks apart, but at least it could act as a buffer. Jiangli was also resting with his eyes closed, waiting for the night to fall. About a few hours later, the entire cave was completely dark, and the cold wind was howling outside. Jiangli felt an overwhelming aura appearing in the sky. The aura rushed into the sky and even spread into the cave. It must be the Rakshasa beast horde. As expected, thousands of Rakshasa beasts swarmed in. Once they entered the cave, they burrowed into it, looking for a warm place to hide. Coincidentally, Jiangli's stone room was the warmest, and there was the smell of fresh meat. This was the biggest temptation for the Rakshasa beasts. As expected, thousands of Rakshasa beasts swarmed in. Once they entered the cave, they burrowed into it, looking for a warm place to hide. Coincidentally, the stone room that Jiangli lived in was the warmest, and there was the smell of fresh meat. This was the biggest temptation for the Rakshasa beasts. They're in. Everyone, be careful. Harry and the other students woke up with a start. They stared at the stone door as if they were facing a formidable enemy. There was a hole in the door that was just big enough for one Rakshasa beast to enter. That way, the Rakshasa beast would rush into the hole immediately and wouldn't think of destroying the other stones. All of you, use your bodies to block the stone at the door. Don't let more Rakshasa beasts enter. Harry ordered. Just then, with a swoosh, a black shadow entered the stone room from the hole. Its eyes were glowing like rubies. Chapter 94. Wind. As soon as the black shadow rushed in, Jiangli's body moved along the flow of air and accurately appeared in front of the black shadow. With a pull of his hand blade, the great emperor's wind seal cutting technique slashed down from the air. Puff! The sound of a cutting machine cutting metal resounded. The body of this Rakshasa beast was cut open by Jiangli with his bare hands, revealing a small piece of base-fried meat. Sure enough, the Rakshasa beast at night is much weaker than under the hot sun, and its body is not as hard. He casually threw the base-fried meat into his mouth. Sure enough, his mouth was full of fragrance, like drinking nectar. Originally, a month on Rakshasa planet could only be used to hone the mind. Without sufficient nutrition support, no one could increase their vitality, and their physical strength would slowly deteriorate. But with base-fried meat, it was different. The protein in it was purer than super protein, and it contained powerful energy. Moreover, this energy could be directly absorbed by the body. Eating base-fried meat every day, in addition to the various vitamins and minerals needed by the body in nutrient drinks, not only would the human body not deteriorate, but it would also become stronger. Unfortunately, the Rakshasa beast was too strong. Even with Jiangli's vitality of 2 and the great emperor's wind seal technique, he could only kill it at night. Moreover, their bodies were too hard and sturdy. Under the cut, just now, Jiangli's palm was faintly painful. With Jiangli's 3 vitality, he could break steel plates. Now, with his 2 vitality, he could even cut steel plates with a pull of his hand blade. The body of the Rakshasa beast was even stronger than steel. It was as if it was forged by machinery. It was unknown how this planet could breed such a life form. It was simply an evil metal life form. Fortunately, they had base-fried meat, and their corpses were very precious. A Rakshasa beast corpse could be sold for thousands of star dollars outside, and many factories needed it. "They're coming in a large scale," Henry exclaimed. At this time, 4 or 5 Rakshasa beasts rushed in from the cave entrance. Their claws were sharp, and they could scratch through rocks. Flesh and blood were like tofu in front of their sharp claws. Luohan and Serene rushed forward at the same time. Luohan took a step and blasted out a punch. It was as if a ghost had appeared. B-grade martial art, Ghost God Fist. With Luohan's 1-3 vitality, cultivating this fist technique would bring out the best in her, and she would not go berserk. Back then, Ouyang Xing had only had a vitality of 1-2, but he had also cultivated this fist technique and was able to sneak attack Jiangli, appear and disappear unpredictably. Sharen's body flashed, and together with Luohan, they attacked a Rakshasa beast together. When the two of them used the Ghost God Fist at the same time, their power increased more than twofold. 1 god and 1 ghost. The combination of god and ghost was almost invincible. Luohan and Serene had been best friends for many years. Although they often bickered with each other, they were familiar with each other and cooperated seamlessly. 2 fists punched out at the same time, one on the left and one on the right of the Rakshasa beast, causing the demon to let out a shrill scream. Then Luohan and Shui Ling each grabbed one side and violently pulled. Voila! The entire Rakshasa beast was torn in half, and a piece of flesh the size of a fingernail fell off. The 2 girls stretched out their hands at the same time, and each took half of it and threw it into their mouths. It was a clean move, tearing the body apart, and with a strong, killing intent, the ghost god appeared. Even Jiangli was stunned. He didn't expect the 2 girls to be so ferocious when they worked together. "How is it? We have been practicing the joint attack technique for a long time, and we finally used it," Serene said proudly. "The Ghost God Fist is the most suitable for joint attacks." "Amazing!" Jiangli gave her a thumbs up and praised. At this moment, a black shadow pounced over. He did not even look at it, and, with a palm strike, the Rakshasa beast was flattened. Then he took a step forward, grabbed it with both hands, and tore it apart instantly. The flesh flew out, and he reached out to grab it and threw it into his mouth. Then he kicked out, and another black shadow was kicked deep into the wall. Boom! At this moment, more and more Rakshasa beasts rushed into the cave. The densely packed Rakshasa beasts outside smelled the blood and rushed in. A piece of rock was smashed into pieces. A Caucasian female student was hit by a Rakshasa beast claw, and a piece of flesh fell off her arm. The Rakshasa beast chewed the flesh in its mouth, and it seemed to be very excited. They were bloodthirsty, just like sharks. The smell of blood could stimulate their fighting power. Not good. Only now did Jiangli know why so many people died in Henry last night, and there were only 7 people left in the team of more than 50. It was because these Rakshasa beasts were too ferocious. He stretched out his long arm and grabbed the Rakshasa beast that continued to attack. Then he tore it, and a piece of flesh fell off. He threw it to the Caucasian female student. Apply the flesh on the wound. The flesh contained a large amount of energy, and it could improve muscle and blood circulation. Not only could it nourish the internal organs, but it could also be applied on wounds. The energy would seep into the cells and blood, replacing the flesh. The girl quickly applied the flesh on the wound, and it melted immediately. As expected, the bleeding stopped, and the piece of flesh that was torn off also began to heal and grow back. The Rakshasa beast relied on this base meat to have such a strong power. In fact, the Rakshasa beast was similar to a metal mecha. The only difference was that they had intelligence. However, the amount of flesh was too small, and it wasn't enough. They had to kill as many Rakshasa beasts as possible to get enough flesh. At this moment, Henry looked calm. He stepped forward and punched continuously. His punching technique was very simple. It was the military body explosive punch. He punched continuously, and the Rakshasa beast was knocked out with a few punches. Then he stomped on the Rakshasa beast and tore it open to take out the flesh. Sometimes, after he killed the Rakshasa beast, he didn't even have time to take the flesh, and other Rakshasa beasts would attack him. More and more Rakshasa beasts rushed in. Even Luohan and Serene could only hide in the corner and punch the Rakshasa beast back. They couldn't kill the Rakshasa beast. To kill the Rakshasa beast, they had to use a large amount of strength to tear it apart. This would not only consume energy, but it would also cause them to be careless, and other Rakshasa beasts would attack them. The claws of the Rakshasa beast were like metal knives. If they attacked slightly, they could even dig out the heart. Hurry up and get closer. Just like yesterday, don't leave any blind spots. Lilith and I will be in charge of the front. 2 of us will be in charge of the top, and the other 2 will be in charge of the left and right. If you see any Rakshasa beast, use your punches to send them flying. Henry shouted, Luohan, Serene, you 2 come closer too. Also Zhongli. Both of us have the strongest vitality. We'll defend the front and attract the firepower. As long as we can hold on for a few hours, the weather outside is getting colder. When we get into the cave, these Rakshasa beasts will gradually lose their strength and retreat. It seemed that the bloody lesson last night had given Henry and the others a lot of experience. Luohan and Serene quickly moved closer to Henry and the others. However, they were entangled by a few Rakshasa beasts. It was a little strenuous for them to fend off the attacks. From the corner of his eye, Zhongli saw a Rakshasa beast pouncing toward Luohan from behind. The sharp claws that were flashing with the cold light were aimed at her back. He quickly kicked a piece of gravel on the ground and sent it flying. With a destructive force, it hit the head of the Rakshasa beast. The Rakshasa beast tilted its body and let out a hissing sound. Luohan was also alarmed. She felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly turned around and threw a punch. The shadow of the punch flickered and collided with the Rakshasa beast's head. Swoosh! While Zhongli was distracted, a Rakshasa beast pounced on him and scratched him. He quickly dodged, but there were still 5 bloody scratches on his back. He blocked the door alone and was attacked by more than 10 Rakshasa beasts. There was no way for him to dodge, and he could only take the claw head-on. Bang! With a backhand slap, he sent the Rakshasa flying. Suddenly, he threw out another slap, cutting the other Rakshasa in half. His body spun, and the piece of flesh fell into his hand. He wiped it on his back, and it turned into liquid and smeared it on the wound. The injury immediately began to heal. At this critical moment, he had a flash of inspiration. He seemed to have comprehended some of the true meaning of martial arts. Because of the 2 moves he had used, one was thunder, the other was wind. The wind and thunder seals actually had the same tendency as Wang Chongrong's. Got it. His martial arts experience was enlightened again. He thought of the Wang family's 8 trigram wind thunder palm, Great Emperor Thunder Seal, and Great Emperor Wind Seal. He waved his left hand, and the wind blew away the clouds. His right hand moved, and lightning struck. Left wind and right thunder attacked at the same time. Swoosh! A Rakshasa beast was torn apart, and the flesh fell into Jiang Li's mouth. He moved his body and calmly dodged the many claws. Another strike. Wind and thunder were used at the same time. His left and right hands fought each other, and his power increased greatly. He took the life of a Rakshasa beast in an instant. In a few blinks of an eye, 4 or 5 Rakshasa beasts were dead. He became more and more proficient. The Great Emperor Thunder Seal and Great Emperor Wind Seal complemented each other. Like a tiger leaping and a wolf dashing, his lethality increased by several folds. The wind and thunder trigram of the Book of Changes appeared clearly in his mind. As a student who was going to take the Star University's entrance exam, it was impossible for him not to study this ancient scripture. Zhongli had also received some pointers from Wang Chongrong, and now that he had actual combat experience, he had a deeper understanding of wind and thunder. The combination of 2 thunders was the Zhan hexagram. The wind and thunder Zhan. Gentleman cultivates with fear. The combination of 2 winds was the Sun hexagram. The wind and sun. A gentleman carries out his orders. The combination of thunder and wind was the Hung hexagram. The wind and thunder were constant. A gentleman's position was not easy. It meant that a gentleman would never change his path. Although the road ahead was tortuous, he would not regret it even if he died 9 times. The combination of wind and thunder was the E hexagram. Wind and thunder are mutually beneficial. A gentleman changes when he sees good and corrects when he has made a mistake. These 4 trigrams contain the profundities of wind, lightning, and the human heart. When combined with the Great Monarch Wind Seal, Great Monarch Lightning Seal, and other martial arts, it produced a sublimation. This was the sublimation of martial arts, the soul, and the body. At this moment, Zhongli felt that his body was much lighter, but also much heavier. His body moved according to his will. He lifted something heavy as though it were light. At this moment, his martial arts realm had increased by another level, and the lethality of the 2 seals' unique skill had also increased by several times. These Rakshasa beasts were as easy as chopping melons and vegetables in his hands. Swish, swish, swish. His palms moved as if they were flying. With a shake, a roll, and a tear, he could kill a Rakshasa beast in the blink of an eye and take their flesh. Zhongli could even mentally sense their attack routes in advance. Sometimes he would directly advance, sealing off the movements of these Rakshasa beasts and directly taking their lives. Every time he attacked, he would take the life of a Rakshasa beast and eat a piece of flesh. Of course, when he was occasionally scratched, he would immediately apply the flesh on the wound. In such battles, he became more and more skilled. In the end, he was almost uninjured, and his speed was far faster than a Rakshasa beast's. As soon as a Rakshasa beast entered, it would be killed. Corpses gradually piled up at the entrance, and a ferocious aura emanated. Finally, the Rakshasa beasts outside did not seem to dare to enter. They made a hissing sound, and all retreated. Many caves were filled with the sound of receding tides. On the ground, in the tunnel ahead, there were hundreds of Rakshasa beast corpses. Chapter 95. My God, one person killed 512 of them. That's inhuman. Henry exclaimed. As the beast tide receded, he and a few white students woke up. They knew that the danger tonight was over, and there was a lot of base meat on the ground. They would not be short of food for the next few days. However, they did not go up to pick it up. Instead, they waited for Jiang Li to distribute it. These students were all outstanding people, and they knew how to behave. Luohan, Serene, let's collect the rest of the base meat together. Half of it will be given to Henry and the others, and the other half will be kept for ourselves. This thing is not only edible, but it can also stop bleeding and regenerate muscles, Jiang Li said calmly. Needless to say, Luohan and Serene had already begun to collect the rest of the base meat. Jiang Li had eaten more than 200 pieces during the battle. Now, there were still more than 300 pieces left. Luohan had given half of it to Harry and the others, so there were still more than 100 pieces left. Each of the 3 of them could get about 50 pieces. In fact, a piece of base meat could supplement the nutrition needed for a day, but a lot of exercise would consume more. Jiang Li had to eat hundreds of pieces of base meat every day to ensure that his vitality would grow slowly in this harsh environment. The aura stored in his cells was only to protect his physical strength in this harsh environment. Otherwise, it would be terrifying if he could transform it too. One like Wang Changrong. Now that he had enough base meat, plus the various vitamins in the nutrient solution, it was time for him to increase his vitality. There's so much base meat. If we use it sparingly, we can definitely get through the 30 days, Serene said happily. Don't use sparingly. Eat all of it a day to replenish your vitality. You have to be at your peak at all times. In this harsh environment, not only can we not be weak, but we have to improve. This is because Star Sky University's exam is not the only round. This is only the first round. Jiang Li said resolutely. There will definitely be a few more rounds of tests, and they won't give us any chance to breathe. If we pass the test on Rakshasa Star and become weak, we definitely won't be able to pass the next few rounds, and all our efforts will be in vain. I estimate that if you eat a lot of base meat every day, your vitality will increase by leaps and bounds, reaching 1, for even 6 in 30 days. The energy contained in the base meat can activate cells, and it is the essence of the stars in the sky. Its effect is even better than the sun spirit essence on Earth. The star that shines above Rakshasa star is even brighter than the sun on Earth, and the energy it contains is even greater. The Rakshasa beast's basic flesh absorbed the energy of the star, which was equivalent to directly absorbing something similar to the sun spirit essence. The energy of this star was denser than that of the sun, and the things that were similar to this sun spirit essence were also denser. After eating it, it was equivalent to consuming a large amount of high-level sun spirit essence every day. Moreover, this kind of high-level sun spirit essence could be transformed by the base flesh without any side effects. Zhongli calculated it with his spirit. Roughly 200 pieces of basic meat contained around 10 grams of high-grade sun spirit essence. Right? Father wants to develop the sun spirit essence without side effects. Then can the base flesh be used as a reference? But if I can think of it, the Sun Moon group can definitely think of it as well. There is definitely a difficult scientific problem to solve. Zhongli shook his head. Science was more precise than cultivation. If there was a slight mistake, the nuclear reaction would have a problem, and all the previous efforts would be wasted. Serene and Luohan also carefully tasted the meat and swept away their share of the base flesh. They swept away the decadence of the past 2 days and became energetic. They even applied some of the base flesh on their skin, and some of the scars caused by the star's light on their skin also began to heal. Their skin had already begun to peel and crack under the sun, and there was no medicine to treat it. Fortunately, the base flesh could make up for all this. The effect of the base flesh was better than any nourishment. It seemed that Star Sky University's choice to hold the exam on Rakshasa Planet had indeed given the students a chance of survival. As long as they had the ability to kill Rakshasa beasts, they would have a better chance of survival. Henry also took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and sat down on his butt. All gentlemanly demeanor was thrown out the window. He picked up a piece of base flesh and applied it on his wounds. Although there were many burns on his skin, he only applied it on the most serious parts. He ignored the small wounds because there was a limited amount of base flesh. Let's rest and conserve our energy. We still have to fetch water tomorrow morning. Henry sighed. Fetching water is a physical activity. We have to walk 100 kilometers under the scorching sun every day. I estimate that in a few days, all my skin will crack and my cells will become cancerous. If there is water in this cave, then our chances of survival will greatly increase. Many people died on the way to fetch water. Henry, Jiang Li's heart skipped a beat. Do you know what the Star Sky University's exam process is? The next round is the combat test, then the culture test, and finally the ranking competition. Henry replied, the process has been like this in the past. If there is no change this year, it will definitely be the same. Ranking competition? Jiang Li asked. What is that? It's very simple. Star Sky University recruits about 300 people from Earth every year, but the treatment of these 300 people is not the same. They have to go through a competition. The first place among the 300 people is the first place in the Earth area. Then, the students from Earth area and the students from other areas will have a ranking competition. Finally, the top 10 students will be awarded an elite reserve medal. This is the key to the immigration elite area. Henry explained. Elite Reserve Medal. When Zhongli heard this, he was secretly shocked. This thing was not as simple as the Star Sky City Wind and Cloud Medal. It represented the prelude to the immigration elite area and was a symbol of identity. In any case, the top 10 freshmen of Star Sky University are all shining brightly. Each of them is a monster of the human race. Countless big forces, the government, and the military are paying attention to them. They're destined to be important people. If they're the first place, they may even be chosen by the big shots in the elite area and be accepted as a disciple. A white girl said enviously, although the big shots in the elite area who have a vitality of more than 3 digits will not appear, it is not bad to have a big shot with a vitality of more than 2 digits. That is the treatment that only the top 10 get. Henry shook his head dejectedly. I am satisfied to be able to become a student of Star Sky University. Now there's a chance that Jiang Li is in the top 10. Everyone has seen his strength. If he is in the top 10, he'll have to take care of us. There are many experts in the entire human race. I don't have the strength to take care of them. I will wait and see. If there is a chance, I will fight for it. Zhongli said politely, but in fact, he was secretly determined to fight for the top 10. This way, his identity would be more outstanding and he would be able to compete with the Sun Moon Group. The entrance exam of Star Sky University was so difficult. No wonder no one in Star Sky City High School last year. Now that half of the night had passed, everyone hurriedly began to recover their strength. Everyone crowded in the depths of the cave. Because there were many people, they could feel some warmth. Especially Zhongli, who had eaten a lot of base meat. His whole body was like a big stove. Everyone could feel the heat emitting from his body. He exhaled a little, and the heat waves rolled, and the breath in his body carried a fragrance. Base meat was really good stuff. Zhongli, Luohan came over and sat next to him. She said in a low voice, "Just now, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I would have suffered." She was referring to the time when Zhongli used a flying stone to repel the Rakshasa beast, which put him in a difficult situation and caused him to be scratched. You don't have to be so polite. Zhongli saw her politeness and felt a little uncomfortable. There is no need to thank me. Luohan's lips moved, but she wanted to say something but stopped. You are so warm. Serene cheered at the side. Let me hug you for one more night. After she finished speaking, she rushed over and hugged Zhongli, letting out a breath of satisfaction. After being interrupted by Serene, Luohan did not speak anymore. She sat next to Zhongli and began to close her eyes to rest. Serene looked at Luohan and closed her eyes to rest as well. She hugged Zhongli and teased him in a joking tone. "Zhongli, my heart hurts when I see you hurt." Zhongli was startled. Seeing that Luohan was sitting quietly at the side, he did not say anything. Serene snorted. It's just a joke. You have no sense of humor at all. Boring." Then, nothing happened that night. The next day, the temperature began to rise, and the cave became stuffy. However, Zhongli's aura became cool. His body temperature remained the same, maintaining a normal human body temperature. He even radiated his aura and changed the environment in a small area. This was the effect of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It was equivalent to air conditioning. Now, he deeply missed the days on planet Quaking Wave. He really wanted to cultivate for another 8 to 10 years so that when he came out, he would be invincible. Unfortunately, there was no sea route on planet Quaking Wave. Last time, it was a special trip organized by the army. It was considered a trial, which meant that it was impossible for Zhongli to take a battleship there again. There were not many opportunities like this. Henry walked out of the cave, looked at the weather outside, and came back. "We're going to get some water. Do you want to go together?" "No, we won't go out." Zhongli waved his hand. "Our water can last us for a few days. We don't have to waste energy every day." "That won't do." Although the temperature in the cave is lower than outside, it is still as high as 40 degrees Celsius. We need to replenish a lot of water. We also need to find salt. Although there is salt in the nutrient solution, it will be drunk up sooner or later, Henry said kindly. "That's really not necessary. Besides, we need to guard the cave first." Zhongli waved his hand. "Let's rest for a day. We will go get water tomorrow." "All right, you guys guard the cave. We will go out." Henry shook his head. "I will give you some of the water I brought." "That's not necessary. We will solve the water problem ourselves." Zhongli smiled. "I will not take advantage of you." Henry sighed and walked out to get water. He had quite a lot of water bottles, but everyone consumed too much water every day. After waiting for them to leave, Luohan looked a little confused. "Zhongli, where are we going to get water? We have used up all the water bottles." As the temperature rose, drinking water continuously would indeed deplete very quickly. The body would also lose a lot of salt, so they had to rely on nutrient solutions to replenish it. Fortunately, Zhongli could lock the endocrine system and maintain the consumption of water, salt, and various vitamins. There was also a certain amount of salt in basic meat. "Wait, let me get water." Zhongli took the water bottle. It was empty. He waved his hand slightly, and suddenly a trickle of water appeared in the air and converged into the water bottle, filling it up. Luohan and Shiren were stunned. They only saw the water appear out of thin air, as if it came from the void. Jiangli used his spiritual power to open the milky white stone and then cast a spiritual illusion, making the two girls see a magical scene like a magic trick. "There's water for you to bathe," Jiangli said with a smile. "It can't be fake, right? You are a hypnotist. You have hypnotized us without us knowing." Shirin took the water bottle, shook it, and found that it was really water. She still did not believe it and thought it was an illusion. She drank a mouthful, and a cool feeling filled her heart and spleen. It was not fake. However, this wasn't reliable either. A skilled hypnotist would cause you to feel pain, and your senses would go awry. When you ate the bitter poison, it would feel like you were eating honey. Even if there was no water in the pot, you would still see a clear spring gushing out. When you drank it, you would still hallucinate and feel refreshed. It's definitely not fake. Why would I deceive you with an illusion? Jiangli shook his head. "Hey kid, you actually hid in this cave. It seems that you killed a lot of Rakshasa last night. How about giving me some basic meat?" A voice came from outside the cave. It was actually Wang Changrong. Chapter 96. Wang Changrong. Jiang Li's expression changed. Although he admired this person, he was very afraid of him. He didn't want to be entangled with him too much. This kind of person seemed to be on good terms with you on the surface, but he could attack you at any time. After living on Rakshasa Star for more than 10 years, he had long thrown his morals aside. You guys killed so many Rakshasa beasts last night. Wang Changrong had already appeared at the door of the stone room. He saw the Rakshasa beast corpses all over the ground, and his expression changed slightly. "You've already mastered the secret of Wind and Thunder Fist? Every move has the change of yin and yang, and they are interchangeable. You killed the Rakshasa beast cleanly." Impressive. Jiangli was shocked. He didn't expect Wang Changrong to be able to see his martial arts realm from the Rakshasa beast corpses. "You're in trouble. Do you know that?" Wang Changrong suddenly raised his head and shouted. "What do you mean?" Jiangli frowned. He felt that Wang Changrong wasn't threatening him. "I saw that you didn't return to the cave yesterday, so I knew that you went to kill the Rakshasa beast to get the meat." Wang Changrong smiled in a strange manner. "The results are indeed fruitful. You killed so many Rakshasa beasts. Unfortunately, the more Rakshasa beasts you kill, the more their aura will contaminate your body. This will make you the target of the Rakshasa beasts. If you kill a few hundred at once, the Rakshasa Beast King will come. I don't think you will even know how you died." Rakshasa Beast King? Jiang Li's eyes flashed. He knew that there would be one Rakshasa Beast King out of every 10,000 Rakshasa beasts. It was huge and had 10 times the strength. Other than that, the Rakshasa Beast King's mental strength was also very powerful. It had surpassed the first stage of meditation, minor meditation, and reached the major meditation level. "That's right, it's the Rakshasa Beast King." Wang Changrong looked around. There was no Rakshasa Beast King among the Rakshasa beasts that came yesterday, but it will definitely come today. The Rakshasa Beast King's intelligence is no less than a human's. If you underestimate it, you will die miserably. You want to fight the Rakshasa Beast King with me? Jiang Li understood what Wang Changrong meant. The Rakshasa Beast's meat was already good stuff, and the Rakshasa Beast King's meat was even better. "I'll help you. We'll split the meat 50 to 50. Wang Changrong boasted shamelessly. "Only when the two of us work together can we possibly deal with the Rakshasa Beast King. Aren't you afraid of the Rakshasa King's illusions? I've looked through all kinds of information and found out that the radiation of its spiritual realm is probably at the level of major meditation. If I'm not wrong, you're only at minor meditation, so you definitely won't be able to resist the hypnosis of major meditation." Jiangli wanted to probe Wang Changrong's actual situation. "Actually, I've already reached the realm of grand calmness by tempering my spirit here." Wang Changrong shook his head. "It's a pity that my physical strength has deteriorated and my brain cells aren't functioning well. My spiritual power is still at minor meditation, and my spiritual realm doesn't improve. Instead, it regresses." "Your spiritual realm will also regress?" Jiang Li's body trembled. "You're not joking, right? The Dharma Sutra says that all bodhisattvas can regress. Bodhisattvas who have achieved great success in Buddhism must cultivate to the 8 earths motionless earth before they won't regress. Wang Changrong chuckled strangely. You have to be careful too. Don't encounter any major changes that will cause your meditative state to regress, and you'll become an ordinary person. Then how can I cultivate to the 8 earths motionless earth bodhisattva? Zhangli asked tentatively, wanting to know what Dao Wang Changrong was pursuing. It's very simple. Kill 1 person and you'll become a bodhisattva. Kill 10 people and you'll become a bodhisattva. Wang Changrong's eyes shone with a green light. You're not ruthless enough, young man. Forget it. Let's talk about how to deal with a Rakshasa king. Will the Rakshasa king come to this cave tonight? Zhangli was concerned about this. That's right. During the day, the Rakshasa beasts will be in the mountains where the light is the strongest. They will bathe in the light of the stars and absorb it for the whole day. At night, they will find a cave to hide in to avoid the cold. Wang Changrong looked around again. Last night, there were about a few thousand Rakshasa beasts. They belonged to a tribe. Their king should be hiding in another place to avoid the cold. Today, when they counted their numbers and realized that there were a few hundred less, they'll definitely be furious. I think they'll attack before nightfall. The Rakshasa beasts are more ferocious during the day. You should have a taste of it. They'll appear during the day. Zhangli stood up abruptly. That's bad. The Rakshasa beasts were extremely powerful during the day. With his vitality, he couldn't tear them apart. He could only kill them by hypnosis. Unfortunately, the Rakshasa king's hypnosis ability was stronger than his. It was good enough that he could resist the other party's hypnosis. It was impossible to kill it. However, both of us have reached a meditative state. The Rakshasa king can't hypnotize us all of a sudden. Wang Changrong sat down. His eyes flickered as he spoke of the plan. When the time comes, we'll work together. I have a set of joint attack martial arts. I'll teach it to you now. When we work together, we'll definitely be able to kill the Rakshasa king. What joint attack? Zhangli was dubious. Dragon and snake joint attack. Wang Changrong's face revealed a look of admiration. This is our Wang family's ancestral secret art. Originally, I didn't want to teach it to you. However, to kill the Rakshasa king, we need an expert who's similar to me to work together. When we use it together, the lethality will be greatly increased. I don't trust other villains. Only a young man like you barely qualifies. You trust me, but I don't trust you. Zhangli was on guard. He raised his eyebrows and said, I won't kill and eat people. I won't kill you either because there's no benefit in killing you. Instead, I'll be in trouble. However, you're different. You'll kill me. Wang Changrong could already see that he had spiritual energy from heaven and earth, so he was very interested in his flesh and blood. Although your flesh and blood are not bad, who would be willing to eat people when they have a choice? Wang Changrong's eyes were ferocious. Those who eat people are all demons. Who would be willing to be a demon? It's the life of exile from Rakshasa Star that forced me to do this in order to survive. The base flesh of a Rakshasa king is enough for me to recover a lot of degenerated body functions. Your flesh and blood can't do this. Moreover, if we work together successfully, we'll definitely be able to kill more than one Rakshasa king. Mr. Wang, is the dragon and snake joint attack a pure martial art? Is it the combination of the dragon and snake forms in the Xing Yi fist? The ancient Chinese martial art doesn't seem to be very brilliant. Luo Han suddenly interrupted. What do you know, little girl? Wang Changrong was a little displeased. The original dragon and snake joint attack was indeed like this. However, as my Wang family's ancestor improved it, the dragon and snake joint attack is not just a martial art, but an extremely powerful spiritual attack. I'll let you see it now. Dragon. He moved his hands, seemingly forming a seal, but not quite. Suddenly, a huge dragon appeared behind him, fluttering and showing its might. The whole cave was spinning, and the dragon's roar could be heard everywhere. The entire universe was filled with the dragon's breath. In an instant, the spiritual illusion seemed to have changed the world. One's mind could create a world. One's mind could change the world. According to legend, The entire universe was derived from the thoughts of a great existence. Ah, Serene and Luohan screamed. They couldn't resist this strong spiritual illusion at all. They only felt that a huge dragon was swallowing them, and they fell into endless darkness. Amazing! Jiangli wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Just now, he almost fell for Wang Changrong's spiritual illusion. This is just a spiritual attack from the dragon and snake joint attack. It's very weak, and it hasn't been combined with physical attacks. Wang Changrong's tone was a little proud. This is a dragon strike. Jiangli, I'll teach you the snake strike in a while. Our dragon and snake joint attack will transform. During meditation, our thoughts can be stacked together, and our lethality will increase by more than one-fold. When Wang Changrong talked about academic issues, he was like a grandmaster. His bloodthirst disappeared, and he showed his passion for cultivation. This persistence was something that even Jiang Li couldn't compare to now. As expected, every expert had their own unique side. He had learned many things from Wang Changrong. However, Jiang Li was just an 18-year-old youth. His life path was still uncertain, and he was still growing. It was natural that he hadn't developed a personality like Wang Changrong. Mental attacks can be stacked? This was the first time Jiang Li had heard of this. Why not? Physical attacks can't be stacked, but mental attacks can. Your vitality is 2, and mine is 2. 1. Our combined vitality won't be able to defeat an expert with 4. 1 vitality. The opponent can insta-kill us with a single move. But if our thoughts are coordinated well, and we can communicate spiritually, we'll be able to unleash an attack that's twice as powerful. Wang Changrong said, real vitality can't be stacked, but illusory spirit force can. Many mid-grade hypnotists can stack their mental forces together after training, and they can fight against high-grade hypnotists. However, the quantity must be great. Since that's the case, we can join forces with you. Jiang Li had never tried the spirit-soul joint attack before. Since the dragon-snake joint attack was a martial art of the Wang clan, it definitely had its own unique profundities. Although he had the Great Spirit Emperor seal as his foundation, he still needed to read through all the martial arts in the world. Only then would he be able to comprehend something on a deeper level. All right, I'll teach you the physical movements of the dragon and snake joint attack first. Then I'll teach you meditation. Finally, the two of us will communicate spiritually and work together. Luckily, you've reached the meditative state, and you can communicate with me through telepathy. If not, if it was someone with a lower cultivation base, I wouldn't even know how to explain it to him. Wang Changrong sighed. Let alone students, even those vicious criminals rarely enter a meditative state. Entering a meditative state is indeed difficult. Jiang Li thought about his own experience. He had obtained an unprecedented fortuitous encounter, received the help and guidance of many people, and even after working hard and consuming various spiritual medicines, he still wasn't able to enter a meditative state. In the end, he had to kill Jianglu and Yu Muhua, breaking the restrictions of all sorts of rules before he was able to enter a meditative state. Let's not talk nonsense. Let's begin. This is the dragon form. Wang Changrong suddenly trembled and performed various movements. Watch carefully. I'll display a spirit illusion. That's the meditation diagram. Jiang Li didn't bat an eyelid. When Wang Changrong performed various fist techniques, a huge dragon would appear above his head. Sometimes it would move the clouds and rain. Sometimes it would swallow and spit out the universe. Sometimes it would have a majestic aura, and sometimes it would roar majestically. Every movement was the movement of the huge dragon, using its spirit to control its body. Of course, this huge dragon was an illusion and didn't exist in reality. It was like a mirage, and Luohan and Serene couldn't see it. This was because Wang Changrong's moves were directed at Jiang Li. This was the essence of martial arts and couldn't be taught to others. Chapter 97. Snake. Wang Changrong's fist technique changed again, and countless large snakes appeared above his head. With just a slight move, hissing sounds could be heard. Jiang Li's vision blurred, and he saw that the ground was covered with snakes. There were even snakes coiled around his body, and some snakes even bit him. Jiangli immediately felt as if he had been poisoned, and he felt numb and itchy, and it became difficult to breathe. But he didn't move at all. It was like the Buddha meditating under the Bodhi tree, invulnerable to all dharma. All the demons were empty. The illusions disappeared one by one. However, he started to comprehend this joint attack technique. It was indeed an ultimate technique, but it was difficult for one person to unleash its power. Remember, meditate and use your heart to influence another. Only by working together with me will you be able to unleash the greatest destructive power. When a divine dragon hibernates, it can transform into a snake. When a snake transforms, it can transform into a divine dragon. When the two of us work together, we are invincible. Wang Changrong warned, "Let's practice our joint attack." Okay. Jiang Li jumped up and started to analyze and practice with Wang Changrong. He also released a spirit illusion, Dance of the Dragon and Snake. As he continued to practice, he gradually sensed the essence and profoundness of the dragon-snake combination attack. He gained a lot of inspiration for meditation techniques, especially in terms of martial arts. He learned some of the essence of a master from Wang Changrong. Gradually, the two martial arts fanatics were completely immersed. Their minds communicated with each other, and they could see each other's meditation. Kill. A few hours later, the two of them roared at the same time and punched the rocks in the cave. Rumble. It was as if a mountain had been split open. The entire rock turned into powder. It wasn't the kind of rubble that flew everywhere, but directly turned into dust. This was the result of the two of them changing their strength from hard to soft. In an instant, they struck out hundreds of times. In ancient times, experts who practiced the soft palm could place a brick on a piece of tofu. With one palm, the brick would shatter, but the tofu wouldn't. This meant that their control of strength had reached the peak. But now, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong had reached this level and surpassed it. This joint attack was the stacking of hundreds of vibrations. No matter how powerful the Rakshasa beast was, it would die. Ha, good. Wang Changrong let out a long howl. I didn't expect your comprehension to be so strong. You quickly grasped the secret of the joint attack technique with me. The power of this joint attack technique is far more than this. But today, I have some confidence in dealing with Devil King. No matter what, as long as our thoughts are united, Devil King won't be able to hypnotize us, and we can still launch a counterattack. Indeed, Jiang Li felt that this Rakshasa star trial was not in vain. Wang Changrong had opened up a new realm for him, allowing him to peek into the mysteries of the Wang family's martial arts. Grand, majestic, unimaginable, swallowing the world, containing the will of the universe. This was the essence of the Wang clan's martial arts. So. At this time, it was already afternoon. Harry and the others had not returned yet, but some cruel and sharp voices came from outside. Be careful. The Rakshasa beast is coming back. Originally, they were supposed to return at night. Now that they had returned in the afternoon, it was obvious that they were here for revenge. Get ready. By the way, do you have water? It would be better if there was a lot of water. Rakshasa beasts are most afraid of water and cold air. Wang Changrong warned again. Against Devil King, the effect of splashing water is also very effective. Splashing water, Jiang Li was delighted. He had dozens of tons of water. If he sprayed it out, the Rakshasa Beast King would not be able to withstand it. However, this would expose the mystery of his space. But Wang Changrong could not leave Rakshasa Star, and no one believed what he said, so it did not matter. However, this could not be exposed until the critical moment. Creak! A sound of metal rubbing against each other rang out. Jiang Li and Wang Changrong immediately used their thoughts to penetrate outside. Sure enough, they saw a large number of Rakshasa beasts in the sky beginning to return to their nests. That's the Rakshasa Beast King. Suddenly, Wang Changrong and Jiang Li saw outside almost at the same time. High up in the sky, a tall figure was flying. It was a full 2 meters tall. The wings on its back flapped slightly, and the airflow lifted this demon into the air. It had a pair of blood-red eyes that scanned everything. It was high up in the sky, like the demon lord of hell. Its claws were very long, very similar to human hands. Its feet were a pair of webbed feet, and it also had claws. It looked very human-like, like the marshal of the demons, the king of the demons. The powerful aura made Zhongli think of the supersonic mecha. However, this Rakshasa Beast King was definitely not as powerful as the supersonic mecha. Of course, it was more terrifying than the supersonic mecha in that it could create mental illusions. Boom! Just as Jiang Li and Wang Changrong's thoughts discovered it, it also discovered the two of them at the same time. Foolish humans, you actually dared to kill my subordinates. Instantly, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong both heard a mental wave that was directly transmitted into their thoughts. There was no language barrier. In the universe, advanced civilizations all communicated with their minds. Language would lose its effect in the end. With one mind, they would know what the other meant. Only when they were in meditation would they have the ability to communicate with their minds. Let's not connect with his mind. Retract your mind and look at yourself. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. Wang Changrong said fiercely, "Wait for it to enter the cave. This cave is narrow, and the group of Rakshasa beasts won't be able to charge in on a large scale. We will be able to hold the pass alone against 10,000 enemies and guard the pass. As long as we guard it for a few more hours, the cold will descend, and the Rakshasa beasts will panic without a fight." No problem. Jiangli nodded. This time was different from last night. With a capable assistant like Wang Changrong, the two of them would definitely be able to kill the Rakshasa beasts much faster. Whoosh! A Rakshasa beast entered the cave. Jiang Li and Wang Changrong attacked at almost the same time. Their palms landed on the body of the Rakshasa beast. The Rakshasa beast was immediately torn apart from the middle, revealing the base meat. Wang Changrong grabbed it and hurriedly threw it into his mouth, unable to wait. Jiang Li was too lazy to fight with him. After all, he had eaten a few hundred last night and was still digesting them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few more Rakshasa beasts entered. Jiang Li and Wang Changrong attacked again, killing them one by one. Sometimes Wang Changrong would drink a lot of water. When he encountered a lot of Rakshasa beasts, he would suddenly spit out a mouthful of water, staining the bodies of the Rakshasa beasts. These Rakshasa beasts would all dodge, causing chaos, and he would kill them one by one. There's such a method? Jiang Li was stunned. He secretly praised, as expected of an expert in surviving on Rakshasa planet. For someone like Wang Changrong, his internal organs could swell at will. He could drink half a bucket of water in one breath and spit it out like a water gun. Being hit by a mouthful of water was equivalent to being hit by a heavy punch. Rakshasa beasts weren't afraid of anything except water and cold. This was equivalent to directly attacking their weakness. Immediately, Jiang Li took the water bottle and drank it. After drinking a few bottles of water in a row, his stomach began to swell like a ball. However, it didn't matter. He could still move freely. At this level of cultivation, it was nothing for his internal organs to swell a little. The Rakshasa beasts continued to enter. 10 minutes later, the ground was full of Rakshasa beast corpses. They were all piled up by Luohan and Serene as obstacles to block the entrance of the cave. The passage was narrow, so the more obstacles there were, the better. This way, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong could move more easily. They kicked the corpses of the Rakshasa beasts and hit other Rakshasa beasts, causing them to fall. Then, they took the opportunity to kill them. There were more than 500 corpses lying on the ground. Some of the base meat had been eaten, and some were still in their bodies. Luohan and Serene went to dig out the base meat from the corpses. This is too easy. If we work together, we can easily defeat the Rakshasa beasts with the Dragon-Snake combination attack. Jiang Li laughed. The Rakshasa Beast King is coming. Wang Changrong moved, and all the hair on his body stood on end. Wah! Jiang Li suddenly heard an ear-piercing scream. It was like a pendant piercing his eardrums, and his head felt like it had been hit hard. Meanwhile, Luohan and Serene fell to the ground. However, they reacted very quickly. They took 2 pieces of base meat from the Rakshasa beasts and blocked their ears. That was how they avoided being deafened and killed. Buzz, a strong mental power attacked, and then all the Rakshasa beasts in the cave flew out to make space for their king. In the blink of an eye, Jiangli saw a tall black shadow appear in front of him. It was only 3 meters away from them, and they could clearly see the scales on a Rakshasa king's body and its terrifying and ferocious eyes. Ordinary people would be scared out of their wits if they saw this shadow. Puff! Jiang Li and Wang Changrong spat out 2 mouthfuls of water at the same time. However, the black shadow flashed, and the water sprayed on the wall. The Rakshasa king had already disappeared. When it appeared in the next moment, a sharp claw broke through the air and covered Jiang Li and Wang Changrong's bodies. Get out of the way! Wang Changrong's mind and Jiang Li moved at the same time. The two cooperated closely and dodged to the side. In an instant, 2 deep holes appeared where they were just standing. It was the Rakshasa king's sharp claws. What ferocious strength, what fast speed, far surpassing us. Jiang Li was stunned. This was practically the same as facing a terrifying mecha. Dragon and snake combined attack, mental attack. Wang Changrong raised the dragon seal and roared fiercely. Jiang Li immediately cooperated and hissed like a snake. The two's minds were immediately connected, and with a mighty momentum, they attacked the Rakshasa king. The Rakshasa king suddenly turned around and stood up. Its eyes were bloody, and it blocked the mental attack of the two. Then, it attacked with its claws again. Its sharp claws were simply high-tech metal cutting machines. Flesh and blood could not block it at all. Wang Changrong and Jiang Li dodged again. It clawed a big hole in the wall. All the rocks were like tofu in its hands. However, its claw missed. Jiang Li and Wang Changrong turned around, and the two of them borrowed the force of the claw's attack, fiercely punching its back. This was the martial art of the dragon and snake combined attack. It contained the essence of combat. Although the Rakshasa king was powerful, how could its combat experience compare to humans on Earth? This was a combat technique condensed from the wisdom of countless people. Bang! The Rakshasa king's entire body was sent flying and hit the wall heavily. However, it was not injured at all. It leaped up again, and its eyes were even more furious. It attacked Jiang Li and Wang Changrong without a care for its life. What a strong body! Jiang Li and Wang Changrong were shocked. They both felt that they had miscalculated. However, it was difficult to get off the tiger. It was either one of them or the other. The two of them performed the dragon and snake combined attack with all their might. They started a life-and-death battle with the Rakshasa king in the entire stone room. Chapter 98. The Rakshasa beast king's body was strong, and its resistance was even stronger than Mecha's. Jiang Li and Wang Changrong's joint attacks could only send it flying, but they could not hurt it. The two sides were in a stalemate, and the battle was in a stalemate. The Rakshasa beast king let out a sharp cry, trying to use a spiritual illusion. However, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong had cultivated the dragon snake combined attack. They meditated on a dragon and a snake traveling the universe, and their minds were connected. It was like Tai Chi, and the changes of yin and yang were impeccable. Moreover, the two of them let out dragon roars and snake hisses. The long roars shook the stone room, causing the wind and clouds to howl and the airflow to tumble. Luohan and Serene could only wait in the corner, ready to kill the Rakshasa beast king at any time. Their vitality was 1-3, and they could pose a certain threat to the Rakshasa beast king. The two of them worked together, and their martial arts experience was higher than the Rakshasa beast king. However, this demon's claws were sharp, and it was difficult to deal with. Other than being afraid of water, it had no weaknesses. Poof! Wang Changrong spat out another mouthful of water, displaying the dragon spit skill of the dragon form. The water suddenly shot out like an arrow. With the current strength of his internal organs, this water arrow could even penetrate wooden boards and smash porcelain into pieces within 3 steps. This dragon spit was perfect when used with the dragon snake combined attack. Moreover, the water arrow was aimed at the Rakshasa beast king's eyeball. Its entire body was impenetrable, and its eyes were relatively weak, but they were well protected. However, the water arrow hit its eyeball, and the Rakshasa beast king's entire body was sent flying. It was in so much pain that it screamed. Its entire body seemed to have gone mad. Its claws kept bombarding the rocks, turning them into powder. Good chance. Zhongli was about to spray water again, but he suddenly realized that there was no more water. All the water bottles were empty. Oh no! He was shocked. He suddenly saw the Rakshasa Beast King's body turn, and it was actually charging toward Luohan and Serene. This is the strategy of besieging the besiegers. This Rakshasa Beast King is indeed as intelligent as a human. Zhongli roared and waved his hand. Instantly, a water column that looked like a long dragon rushed over. It was very thick, like a high-pressure water gun. It hit Devil King's back fiercely. At this time, he couldn't care less about exposing his secret in front of Wang Changrong. He used his psychic power to open a fist-sized spatial crack. When the space changed, the pressure was huge, and the water directly sprayed out. Devil King had just rushed to the front of Luohan and Serene when his whole body was drenched in water. Immediately, his scales shrank. He was like a drowned rat, shivering all over, and his body became much weaker. The water column was still crashing against its body. Wang Changrong was stunned. Where did this water column come from? Dragon-snake combination attack. Tear it apart. Zhongli suddenly erupted, and Wang Changrong understood. The two of them exerted all their strength, and in a flash, they got close to Devil King and tore it apart. Whoosh! Devil King was torn in half, and a fist-sized piece of flesh fell from its body. Luohan, who was next to him, immediately caught it and put it away. It's done. Zhongli breathed a sigh of relief, but found that Wang Changrong was staring at him. What's wrong? Zhongli pretended not to know. Kid, where did that water column just now come from? Why did you create a water column out of thin air? In the depths of his mind, Wang Changrong's voice sounded. This is something that humans can't do. Do you have something with the space folding technique? This was a mental conversation. Zhongli was deep in thought. He knew that he couldn't hide his lies from Wang Changrong. Wang Changrong was a powerhouse in meditation, and his mind was sharp. He could distinguish between truth and lies. Any lies in front of him would be equivalent to a clumsy joke. That's right. I have a treasure with the space folding technique. Zhongli was also talking telepathically. As expected, Wang Changrong suddenly realized. I've always had a feeling that you would definitely not be ordinary in the future. I didn't expect you to have mastered the space folding technique that even the human elites can't master. Your martial arts are from an alien planet. If I'm not wrong, you've obtained a treasure from an alien planet, right? Your analysis is not bad, Zhongli said bluntly. Don't be nervous. Although this is a big secret, it's not a big deal. Humans obtaining a spaceship from an alien planet is a huge fortune. Compared to you, obtaining something from an alien planet is very normal. When humans on Earth collided with an alien civilization, it was originally an era of heroes. Some people had great luck and obtained treasures, while others directly died. There are many strange things in this world. Those who have reached meditation can treat everything equally, and it won't affect my mind. Wang Changrong sighed. However, since you have the space folding technique, I need to rely on you to do something. Don't tell me you want me to use the space folding technique to take you out. Zhongli instantly understood Wang Changrong's thoughts. You can't do that. If you go out with your identity, you'll get into big trouble. What trouble? Wang Changrong sneered. As long as I go out, I can immediately contact many powerful people. Do you think I will go out with no identity? How about this? If you bring me out, I will give you 100 million star dollars. How about it? You have so much money. Zhongli didn't believe it. You are simply insulting me. Wang Changrong looked at Zhongli as if he was looking at a frog at the bottom of a well. Is 100 million a lot? For our Wang family, it is almost the same as $1. Moreover, I am an intermediate hypnotist. The wealth I have accumulated is not something you can imagine. You have committed such a serious crime. You will be exiled on Rakshasa planet for 10 years. I am afraid that all your wealth will be stripped clean. Zhongli wanted to dig out more of Wang Changrong's secrets. He was actually very tempted. Wang Changrong was a powerful figure. By killing Yumuhua and Zhongli, he had already offended the big shots in the capital and the Sun and Moon group. Roping in more people to fight against these two forces was the key. I have already hidden a part of my wealth. Wang Changrong stood with his hands behind his back. How about it? Bring me out. If 100 million is not enough, 200 million. Money is secondary. Jiang Li waved his hand. Although he also needed money. Asking for Wang Changrong's money was obviously a transaction. He was not willing to do this. If such a person owed him a favor, it was far more than 200 million. Now, he had already accepted it. With his own ability, he could easily make money. I can bring you out, but I have some trouble in the outside world. I hope you can help me solve it. I won't take your money. People like us can make money easily, Jiang Li said. What trouble? Wang Changrong would not agree easily. I have a grudge against the Sun and Moon group. This is what happened. Jiang Li told him everything. There was nothing to hide. Sun and Moon group, Jiang family. Wang Changrong sneered. They're getting bigger and bigger. It is a little troublesome. Although it is not easy to take them down, protecting you is a piece of cake. As long as you joined the Huashan Nation Restoration Organization, no one can make things difficult for you. With your current strength, you will immediately become a high-ranking member. I will not join the Huashan Nation Restoration Organization. Jiang Li shook his head and said, We are doing a favor. Young man, you're not bad. You are not greedy and have gradually found your own heart. However, you are still lacking a little. You need to shape your own moral nature. Wang Changrong praised slightly. There are not many young people who can get my praise. I have already entered meditation. What is there to be greedy for? Jiang Li laughed. We have already killed Devil King. According to the agreement, we will each take half of his base-fied meat. As he spoke, Luohan handed over the base-fied meat. Jiang Li cut it with his fingernail and separated the fist-sized base-fied meat. He gave half to Wang Changrong and then divided it into 3 portions, one for Luohan and one for Serene. Devil King's base-fied meat was many times stronger than ordinary meat. As soon as Jiang Li took it, all the cells in his body cheered in joy. A powerful energy flowed endlessly through his limbs and bones. Although there was no obvious increase in his vitality, his cells strengthened quite a bit, especially his brain cells. If he went out and became a hypnotist, not only would he be able to hypnotize more people, but his value would also skyrocket because he was already an intermediate hypnotist. A beginner hypnotist would charge 1,000 star dollars for each person hypnotized. An intermediate hypnotist would charge 100 times more, or even more. It was difficult for ordinary people to invite such a person. As for Wang Changrong, once he consumed it, his aura was obviously different. The roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger could be heard. Every pore on his body was ejecting air, and the muscles all over his body showed an obvious luster. His vitality had increased by 1 decimal point. It should have reached 2. This was not unusual. It was difficult for Jiang Li to increase his vitality now. It was because he needed to expand his container. Wang Changrong's vitality was originally 2.5. However, after being tempered by the hardships on Devil Planet, it had degenerated greatly. Now that he had received enough nutrients, some of his cell functions were immediately restored. I finally killed a Devil King beast. After a long time, Wang Changrong opened his eyes. His chi flowed in and out like a dragon or a snake. However, when his gaze landed on Jiang Li's body, a trace of seriousness appeared on his face. Although Jiang Li hadn't made any obvious progress, his martial arts experience had improved by leaps and bounds. As for Luohan and Serene, their vitality was the same as his. They had increased by 1 decimal point from 1.3 to 1.4. The energy contained in the Devil King's basic flesh is really strong. It is at least equivalent to dozens of bottles of Sun Spirit Essence. The quality is even higher. The most valuable thing is that it can be directly absorbed by the human body. Luohan stretched comfortably. She did not expect that vitality could be increased on Devil Planet. It was already quite good for other students to be able to preserve their physical strength. Once the Devil King beast is dead, the Devil beasts will be leaderless. They will retreat and be subdued by other tribes. Now we're temporarily in absolute safety. Wang Changrong said, "Did you hear that? The devil beasts have all flown away." As expected, large groups of Rakshasa beasts left this place, scrambling to escape. They all had a spiritual connection with each other, and after knowing that their king had died, their spirits had collapsed. They did not dare to stay here, let alone attack Jiangli. Unfortunately, Jiangli did not chase after them. Those devil beasts are all basic flesh. It's okay, Wang Changrong said. I control all the caves within a radius of thousands of miles, as well as the distribution of the Rakshasa beast tribes. You can carry water with you. With this advantage, our range of movement can be expanded infinitely. It's not impossible to kill the Rakshasa beast king. Also, in some of the caves, there's salt that we need. To survive on Devil Planet, the most important thing was to be close to a water source. However, since Jiangli had a portable space, it was equivalent to carrying a swimming pool with him. The water source he carried could be used for a few months. This way, their movement was not restricted, and they could do more things. Chapter 99. In the afternoon, when Henry and the others came back, they saw corpses all over the ground, including the corpse of a Rakshasa king. They screamed and screamed for God, and their eyes almost fell out. Wang Changrong was going to kill these people, but Jiangli stopped him. Since he was counting on Jiangli to take him out, Wang Changrong had to give him face. When Henry and the others saw the ferocious Wang Changrong, they knew that he was the most vicious of the gangsters. They didn't dare to approach and hid in another cave. Nothing happened that night. In the following days, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong reached an agreement. The two, together with Serene and Luohan, began to run nonstop across the entire gravel wasteland, looking for Rakshasa beasts to kill. Because Jiangli didn't lack water and had sufficient supplies, the four of them didn't have any scruples at all. They also found salt in a cave far away. In this way, the harsh environment on Rakshasa Star became a paradise for them. For this point, Jiangli was also very clear that Rakshasa Star was certainly not a dangerous place. Those who could survive here were all strong. The people of Star Sky University wouldn't let all the candidates die. Otherwise, the exam would be meaningless. 15 days passed in a row, and the exam time was already half over. The bodies of the four people were getting stronger and stronger, especially Luohan and Serene. They had been exposed to the hot sun for a day or two, and their bodies would have cracked and eventually become dry corpses. However, they learned a method, which was to melt the base meat in water, turn it into a gel, and then smear it on their skin, becoming a layer of sunscreen. Running under the scorching sun, the strong light of the star didn't harm the skin at all. There was even a cool air circulating around their body, and the temperature dropped a lot. Especially at night, when they smeared a layer of oil on their body, they would immediately feel warm, more comfortable than being near a stove. Even in the temperature of minus 50 degrees Celsius, people could still stand outside and practice their boxing skills against the huge cold wind. The base meat was simply a treasure, the hope of Rakshasa Star. At night, the temperature was getting lower and lower, to the point where it could freeze a person's limbs. The wind was so cold that it could even blow huge rocks into the air. However, Jiang Li's entire body was covered in base meat oil and felt warm. After exiting the cave, he practiced his fist technique outside. He used the Great Emperor's wind seal and felt the essence of the storm amidst the cold wave and strong wind. Buzz, he struck out with his palm, forming a vortex to resist the raging winds outside. His entire body spun like a top, surging forward violently. Not long after, a special tornado pillar was formed around his body. His movements became faster and faster. Every palm strike was like a raging storm, exploding the air. In the end, rings of explosions spread out. With him as the center, the area within a radius of 10 steps was unexpectedly calm. He didn't stop advancing, tempering himself in the storm. He was getting more and more proficient with the Great Emperor's wind imprint. Sometimes, when some huge rocks flew over, he would casually send them flying with a palm strike, impenetrable by wind and rain. Voila, voila! It was Wang Changrong. His entire body was also covered in base meat oil, and he had been training in the storm. After obtaining the nutrient solution and consuming large amounts of base meat, his vitality finally started to slowly rise. Haha, Jiangli kid. After training for the past 10 days, my vitality has recovered to 2. 3. Wang Changrong barged in and said while practicing his martial arts, "We've killed around 3 Rakshasa kings these few days. Unfortunately, my vitality hasn't increased much. It's still at 2. Jiangli shook his head. Those 2 girls have already reached 1. 5, but you haven't? Wang Changrong was also a little confused, but then he came to a realization. The meditation technique you're cultivating makes your brain cells too active, and it consumes too much nutrition. Moreover, your martial arts, Great Emperor's Wind Seal and Great Emperor's Lightning Seal, are unparalleled techniques. Every time you use it, a large amount of energy will be released, which is why your vitality is progressing so slowly. However, your lethality is really not to be underestimated. Recently, I've seen you killing Rakshasa beasts. Even during the day, you can cut it open with a palm strike. Jiangli nodded. Although his vitality was still 2, the toughness of his body and the lethality of his martial arts had greatly increased. Especially his mental strength and brain cells, they had more than doubled. Maybe if he went back now, he could hypnotize thousands of people every day. Wang Changrong was now secretly impressed by his hypnosis skills. After surviving on this Rakshasa planet, I feel like it's a paradise. Jiangli used his martial arts and spoke at the same time. His voice rumbled like thunder, and even a level 20 gale couldn't blow his voice away. I still think Rakshasa King's base meat is better. From tomorrow onwards, we'll specifically look for Rakshasa Kings to kill. No problem. I also hope to recover to 2. 5 as soon as possible. Wang Changrong let out a long roar. Now, you and I can work together again. Our mental strength is enough to defeat Rakshasa Kings. We don't have to compete with it physically. I also feel that my mental strength has increased a lot. It won't be difficult to deal with Rakshasa Kings. Jiangli used another palm strike and smashed a huge rock that was half the height of a person flying over. The fist and the rock made a loud noise, but his body was unharmed. Let's go. We're done cultivating. Let's go back and take a bath. Wang Changrong finished a set of 8 trigrams palm and went back into the cave with Jiangli. In the depths of the cave, there was a deep stone pit. The stone pit was actually filled with steaming hot water. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Jiangli and Wang Changrong jumped in and took a comfortable bath. This hot water was a kind of gelatinous material with a lot of base meat inside. When it was cold, it would release heat. When it was hot, it would release cold air. Now, Jiangli and Wang Changrong were bathing in base meat water. It was simply extravagant. Soaking like this every day, it would be strange if their muscles and bones didn't improve by leaps and bounds. In another cave, there was also a pool. Luohan and Serene were also bathing in it. The 2 women's bodies were spread out and shrouded in mist. They kept laughing and teasing each other. I didn't expect our vitality to increase so much on Rakshasa Star this time. Luohan poured water on Serene and played. Hee, my vitality has reached 1. 5, what about you? Me too. What? You want to surpass me? Serene smiled and also splashed water on Luohan. The sticky water was quickly absorbed by their skin, causing a layer of cuticle to appear in the depths of their skin. It was shiny like crystal and looked holy and white like a noble goddess. It's a pity that weapons are not allowed in this exam. Even cold weapons can't be used. Luohan played for a while and felt more and more energetic. If I could bring my silver needles in, I can use acupuncture to stimulate my body's potential and greatly increase the speed of energy absorption. It shouldn't be a problem for me to break through again. It doesn't matter if you can't bring the silver needles in. Don't we have the bodies of Rakshasa beasts? Their bodies are active metals. Now that they have softened, you can tear them off and turn them into silver needles. Serene poked Luohan's forehead and laughed. Your IQ is really low. I despise you. Really? Why didn't I think of that? Luohan suddenly realized and jumped out of the pool. She put on her clothes and walked outside. She found a Rakshasa beast body and began to tear its flesh. Sure enough, the flesh that was as hard as metal had softened. She was dexterous and quickly made hundreds of needles. When she returned to the cave, the needles had become hard and were exactly the same as the silver needles. In fact, the quality was even better. She took off her clothes and sat in the pool. She began to insert the needles into the major acupoints of her body. Then, she rotated the needles and stimulated the acupoints deeply. Her whole body trembled slightly. However, her body was soaked in the liquid. The liquid was absorbed in large amounts, and her breathing was much stronger than before. She sat like this for the whole night. When it was almost dawn, Luohan opened her eyes and exhaled. Suddenly, a lot of gravel in the cave was blown around. Serene had been watching quietly by the side. She knew that it would definitely be beneficial for her. Sure enough, Luohan pulled out the silver needles on her body and smiled. "Come, Serene, I'll perform acupuncture for you." Although they often bickered, they would still help each other at critical moments. "Are you going to perform acupuncture on Jiangli?" Serene leaned over and asked. "Your acupuncture can stimulate the potential of Jiangli." "No, Jiangli is too powerful. His neurons and cells are connected. He can control his own endocrine system and all kinds of nervous system. He can perform acupuncture with his mind. There's no need for needles anymore." Luohan shook her head. She helped Serene pull up her loose hair and prepared to perform acupuncture. "Is it really that powerful to meditate?" Serene felt that it was too miraculous. "It's that powerful. You and I are now in the third stage of deep sleep, but it's harder than ascending to heaven to meditate. I hope we can see through that barrier as soon as possible." Luohan was also begging. Jiangli killed Jianglu and Yu Muhua before he could finally meditate. "The price is too high. I don't know what will happen after the exam. Even if he's a student of Starry Sky University, his family will inevitably be harmed." Serene began to worry. "We'll deal with it when it comes. There's nothing to worry about." Luohan was optimistic. "Since things have come to this, it's useless to worry. The only thing we can do is to improve our strength. The stronger we are, the more our enemies will be afraid of us. I think Jiangli has already seen through this. That's why he's calm and doesn't care about the consequences." "Luohan, Serene, let's go. It's dawn. Let's go hunt Rakshasa beasts." At this time, Zhang Li's voice came from the depths of the cave. Luohan and Serene heard it and quickly jumped out of the pool. They quickly put on their clothes and rushed out. "Why are we leaving so early today?" "I'm about to perform acupuncture on Serene," Luohan asked when the four of them gathered. "Today, we're going to a place 200 kilometers away. Our target is the Rakshasa king in the depths of a cave. So leave early. Be careful." After saying that, Jiang Li and Wang Changrong took the lead and rushed out of the cave. Luohan and Serene followed behind. Once again, the four of them underwent a grand and cruel cultivation. At the same time, in the black market of Suhua City, in a secret room of the Three Dragons Guild, 6 cats, Flower Mask King, and Wuming were quietly guarding Dahe. Dahe's body had obviously grown bigger. He sat cross-legged and soaked in the essence of the sun and moon. On his back, 2 wings actually appeared. This was the result of genetic mutation. Many days had passed since Big Black consumed the gene potion of the Sky Tremor Thunderbeast. He had been sleeping and meditating. The Three Dragons Union was now under his complete control. The president, Li Sanlong, had become his spiritual slave, and he was perfectly arranging everything from the outside. The Flower Mask King was very nervous. It kept rubbing its claws and paced around the secret room, feeling very uneasy. This time, it was related to Dahe's transformation. If the transformation failed, it would be a disaster. Dameng and Tumeng were very calm. They still maintained their childlike innocence and played with each other, rolling on the ground. Roar! Suddenly, a wave of air appeared from Dahe's body. He slowly opened his eyes, and the wings on his back flapped. He actually floated in the air. His eyes were like lightning, and a tyrannical thought swept through the entire secret room, seeping out. "Boss, you've successfully evolved? After obtaining the ability of the sky-shaking Thunder Beast, you can fly. This is a flying cat. I worship you so much." The Flower Mask King roared. Meow. Damung and Wooming also cheered and jumped. Chapter 100. Roar, roar, my genetic modification is a success. I'm gradually evolving into a sky-shaking thunder beast. Dahe the cat roared. With wings, I can fly. The sky-shaking thunder beast is the evolution of felines. If humans were to inject its genes, they would die very quickly. Even for felines, it would be very dangerous. Luckily, my spirit is strong, and I can constantly use my spirit to catalyze the medicinal effects. Also, my body has been modified by the embryonic breath, so my ability to withstand genetic modification is very high. Originally, I wanted you guys to inject it as well and become flying cats. However, based on my experience in genetic modification, you guys definitely won't be able to withstand it. Boss, the legendary sky-shaking thunder beast can not only fly, but it can also absorb the power of thunder and lightning, releasing a powerful lightning ability. I wonder if Boss can absorb electricity? Flower Mask King asked. Not for now. Absorbing electricity to produce abilities is an extremely powerful gene. Currently, I've only managed to create the ability to fly. Unless I inject the sky-shaking thunder beast gene potion many times, I might not be able to absorb electricity. Dahe was proficient in genetic knowledge. It was very eager to learn and diligent. It could obtain a large amount of information on the internet for research. Within the body of the sky-shaking thunder beast, there is a lightning relic. It's formed naturally and is equivalent to a small nuclear reactor. It can absorb lightning and store it before releasing it. It's similar to the Taoist gene Dan. I succeeded the first time I inject it. The next time I inject it, the risk will be much lower. If I inject it for a long time, I will definitely become a sky-shaking thunder beast. Meow. Five Ming bounced. The sky-shaking thunder beast is so powerful. Even human mecha are not its opponent. Its body is so strong that it can tear battleships apart. Boss, can you really strengthen yourself to that extent? Now that a bullet is on your body, can you block it? No. The guns of humans are too powerful. They all contain small-scale nuclear energy. Flesh and blood can't block it. Dahe shook its head. If it's the bullets from 200 years ago, they won't be able to penetrate my body. However, the police's paralysis gun is ineffective against me. Then, boss, we need to obtain more sky-shaking Thunder Beast gene potions. If you inject 8 to 10 of them, you'll become stronger and stronger. The Flower Mask King waved his paws, like a soldier welcoming the inspection of a leader. In theory, yes. However, there is a risk with every injection. From now on, I want to study genetics and see if there are any drugs that can be used as a formula to reduce the risk. Winning a gamble once depends on luck and courage, but winning countless times depends on one's ability. Dahe also waved its paws and landed. The wings on its back were curled into a ball and hidden in its fur. It looked like an extra-large black cat, which was more convenient for movement. Otherwise, a cat with wings on a train would definitely arouse curiosity. Although the government would not arrest it, it would still attract a lot of attention. Now, the human government was very open-minded about animals. Even if there were strange animals, as long as they did not cause damage, they would not capture them. Since the advent of genetic modification, many animals had become experimental subjects. Moreover, many years ago, during the World War on Earth, countless nuclear explosions had affected animals. We need to set up a laboratory to study genetics. However, we need specialized researchers. The Flower Mask King looked at the information on the optical computer, appearing very calm. Boss, how's your hypnosis now? Your brain cells should be stronger, right? The Ming asked. Of course, the brain cells of the sky-shaking Thunder Beast are super strong. Otherwise, how could it control lightning? These days, after the injections, my mind is actually clear. However, I am immersed in hallucinations every day. After experiencing this pain, my realm has increased. If there are no accidents, I should be able to advance to the realm of big meditation after a period of time. Dahe strolled leisurely. There are 3 stages of meditation: small meditation, big meditation, and constant meditation. Each realm has a big mystery. I hope that all of you can enter meditation one by one. That way, our Meow alien team will be able to truly dominate the black market. Meditate, meditate. Demeng, the Flower Mask King, and the other kittens all roared. We want to meditate. Let's begin the plan. The Three Dragons Guild is already completely under our control. First, find out where the black market still has the gene potion of the sky, shaking Thunder Beast, and plunder as much as we can. Dahe then walked out of the secret room and looked at the sky. I wonder where Jiangli went to take the exam. Can he get into Star Sky University? Boss, look, the Sun Moon group is desperately building. Demeng raised his paw and pointed far away. There were tall buildings, and there were some mechas flying above them. They were not mid-martial mechas, but low-martial mechas. However, they were still very strong. The people of the Sun Moon group will all be controlled by me sooner or later. Dahe did not act rashly. Although he could fly now, it was not enough against guns. He still needed to accumulate strength and slowly build up his strength. Rakshasa Planet. Jiangli did not know that Dahe had successfully transformed after injecting the gene potion and became even stronger. He was completely immersed in the cultivation of martial arts. He killed Rakshasa beasts with Wang Changrong, ate the base meat, and honed his martial arts. Finally, on the 28th day, his vitality broke through to 2. 1. Luohan and Serene had also broken through to 1. 6, becoming the best among the students. Although Wang Changrong's strength had not fully recovered, it had also reached 2. 4. This way, the 4 of them worked together to kill Rakshasa beasts more efficiently. In the last 2 days, they actually killed 4 Rakshasa Beast Kings. This way, everyone got a piece of the Beast King's base meat. After eating it, all the cells in their body were strengthened again. Jiangli felt that his brain cells were constantly strengthening. The nutrients and energy that he plundered had to first ensure the supply of brain cells, then the body, so his vitality was growing very slowly. But Wang Changrong said that Jiangli was also an intermediate hypnotist, but his spiritual strength was equivalent to dozens of hypnotists. In terms of the number of times he was hypnotized, Wang Changrong was not as good as him. Finally, the 30 days of hellish training were over. Beep, beep, beep. On this day, the chips on Luan, Serene, and Jiangli sounded at the same time. All students, the 30 days of training has ended. Return to your base, do a head count, and proceed to the next round of examinations. Wang Changrong's body trembled, and he stared at Jiangli. He knew that this was his only chance to leave Rakshasa Planet. Since we have an agreement, I will definitely take you out. But I'm also taking a big risk. If I am found out by Star University, not only will I be disqualified from the examination, but I will also be exiled, Jiangli said. Don't worry, space folding technology is now being researched by the highest technology of mankind. How can they find out? Wang Changrong hurriedly said. Hurry, put me into the space. That's good, but I have to warn you. This space will absorb energy and expand during the wormhole jump. If something happens to you, I won't be responsible. Jiangli remembered this problem. It doesn't matter. It's better than dying of old age on Rakshasa Planet. Wang Changrong couldn't wait. Since there is no hope, it's better to give it a try. That's the truth. Indeed, rather than dying of old age, it's better to give it a try. Jiangli slowly opened the space. There was still some water in it, and there was a lot of base meat in the water. Jiangli was going to take it to Earth and soak it for his parents, sister, brother, and Dahe's cats. Wang Changrong jumped in, and the space immediately closed, isolated from the world. Jiangli came out of the cave and said to Luohan and Serene, Let's go. What about Wang Changrong? Luohan asked. This is a secret. It's better if you don't know, Jiangli said in a dignified tone. I don't want you to be involved in this matter. Even if you want to tell me, I don't want to hear it. Serene pouted and muttered. Luohan nodded. Then let's go. This trial is over, and the next cultural combat test should be very easy. The 3 of them ran quickly, and their speed was much faster than before. Serene and Luohan took a base meat of Rakshasa King in the last 2 days. Although they didn't break through 1.7 vitality, after going back and training hard, the chance of breaking through was very high. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 3 of them turned into a shadow and ran on the gravel plain while braving the high temperature. Their speed reached 100 kilometers per hour, and they were all smeared with the base meat liquid, ignoring the scorching sun. About 5 hours later, the human base appeared in front of them. A beam of energy shot out from it, and the three of them were swept up. In the next moment, the three of them arrived at the hall of the human base. Looking at the spacious and luxurious floor, they felt like they had been reincarnated. Jiang Li's spirit was also touched. There was a wall between barbarism and civilization. Both Xueling and Luo Han were deep in thought. This trial was another chance to temper their spirit, and it was very helpful to their spirit cultivation. The three of you. At this time, a tall warrior in a white mecha walked over and looked at the three of them. When he saw the base meat liquid smeared on their bodies, he couldn't help but be surprised. The three of you killed a large number of Rakshasa beasts? How much base meat did you get? You're actually so extravagant that you smeared the liquid all over your body? I was just lucky. Zhongli smiled faintly. Congratulations, you passed the first round of the test. You came back alive from Rakshasa planet, the warrior in white said. Your chips have indicated that you passed the first round of the test. Next, we have prepared a resting room for each of you. There are nutrition drinks, various food, and clothes inside. Change into them and rest while waiting for the second round of the test. Yes. Jiang Li, Luo Han, and Serene saluted. Your resting room is over there. The rest of you are on the other side. The chip shows the route. Go. Then, the three of them separated and went to their own resting rooms. Jiang Li walked for a long time and saw many rooms that looked like a beehive. One of them was his. The chip scanned, and the room opened. It was 50 square meters. There was no bed, but the floor could be used for sleeping. There were various nutrition drinks in the cabinets in the room. He immediately ate and drank to his heart's content. Then, he did all kinds of gentle exercises. After digesting the nutrition, he began to meditate and rest while waiting for the notification. He could be calm no matter where he was. This was the power of a strong spiritual cultivation. I wonder how many candidates from the Earth region will survive this time. There are more than 10,000 candidates. It can't be that half of them will die, right? If all the young masters in Beijing are dead, then the news of me killing Yumuhua and Jiang Lu won't be leaked. However, there are many people watching that day. Sooner or later, the news will spread. I should be prepared to fight to the death with them. After resting for about a few hours, Jiang Li had completely recovered and reached his peak condition. He then stood up and moved his muscles, thinking about what to do in the future. Chapter 101. Beep, beep, beep. The chip vibrated again, and a beautiful female voice sounded. All candidates, please get into position and prepare for the wormhole jump. Why is the wormhole jump starting? Aren't we preparing for the second round of exams? Won't the second round of exams be held on Rakshasa planet? Jiang Li found that the entire room had changed. A huge cover covered him in the middle, and a metal platform slowly rose, ejecting air. This was the beginning of the wormhole jump. The lounge he entered was actually a cabin of a battleship. All the students had finished their trials on Rakshasa planet and entered the lounge to rest. In fact, it was like entering a spaceship. When everyone had arrived, the spaceship would begin the jump. Jiang Li lay quietly on the metal window, surrounded by glass, and listened to the countdown of the wormhole jump. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1. The wormhole jump began again. This time, Jiang Li did not feel as if the world had turned upside down, nor did he pretend to be dead or faint. He remained awake, probably because his brain cells were strong enough to resist the power of the wormhole distortion. He felt the milky white stone on his chest move and begin to absorb the wormhole space energy. Then it turned into a warm current that was transmitted to his body. His whole body was warm, and every cell began to strengthen and expand. If this continued, he felt that every cell in his body would become a tiny space that could store more nutrients and energy. Every time he jumped, his physical strength would increase a little. His body was strengthened again. I wonder how Wang Changrong is doing? His thoughts penetrated into the white stone, and he saw that the space inside was beginning to expand. Wang Changrong was a little flustered because the expansion of the space was accompanied by a drastic change in space-time, the great shift of heaven and earth. Ah! He roared fiercely inside, and his body seemed to be stretched and shrunk, but he was still alive. A huge amount of space energy poured in, causing him great pain. Every cell was being crushed and pulled. This kind of torture was not something a human could endure. However, in the end, he ignored the pain in his body and entered a meditative state. He sat peacefully, and his mind wandered. A huge amount of energy continued to pour in, and Jiang Li's cells also felt warm. Finally, they entered a dormant state. Dream for thousands of autumns. What year is it today? Once again, he dreamt of the life of an ancient martial arts cultivator on an alien planet, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, refining his martial skills, and becoming a martial arts master. Everything on the alien planet came to life. Every time he jumped through the wormhole, he would have this dream, and when he returned to reality, he would have a strong desire to go to another planet. This alien planet could be said to be a dream come true. It was a different world, completely different from the order on Earth. It was a world of cultivation, belonging to another civilization in the universe. After an unknown period of time, he woke up again, full of energy. A beautiful female voice sounded in the cabin. The wormhole jump is complete. We have arrived at the Emperor Star where Starry Sky University is located. All students only have 15 minutes to adjust. Emperor Star. Jiang Li's expression changed. Starry Sky University is on this planet? Heaven and earth spiritual energy. I can feel the rich heaven and earth spiritual energy here. It's even purer than the one on Crooked Wave Star. The universe was vast. There were all kinds of strange things. When humans explored the universe, they discovered many strange planets. Some of the planets were huge, and their surface was covered in water. The density of the water was dozens of times heavier than that of the water on Earth. In the ocean lived monsters that looked like dragons, and they could easily reach hundreds of meters long. There was also a planet full of caves. At first glance, it looked like a beehive, but inside there were many alien insects, extremely fierce, preying on flesh and blood. There was also a planet that was not made of soil, but something similar to a wriggling, gelatinous flesh. There were also giant tentacles slowly wandering in the vast universe, as if they were living creatures. Apart from that, some planets were made of huge diamonds, while others were made of gold. These pure diamond planets and gold planets were located in very dangerous areas of the universe. Humans had only discovered them, but could not develop them. In a vast universe, most of the planets had harsh environments. Humans could not live on them. They could not even build bases on them. Compared to them, Rakshasa Star was simply heaven. At least there was oxygen and water. So far, humans had explored a total of hundreds of habitable planets and had developed dozens of planets as human bases. Some planets were still under development. The Emperor Star was one of them. The Emperor Star was very large, about the same size as planet Ripple, and its gravity was 3 times that of Earth, so it was very difficult for ordinary people to live on it. Only those with strong vitality could survive on it. Of course, only a small part of the Emperor Star had been developed. The rest of the environment was still very dangerous. The reason why Star Sky University chose this location was to train the students. It's actually an Emperor Star. It even has dense heaven and earth spiritual chi. Even the heavens are helping me. Jiangli was excited as he leaped into the air. Planets with heaven and earth spiritual chi were pitifully rare in the universe, and every planet had a huge secret hidden within. Humans had yet to figure out how heaven and earth spiritual chi was formed. However, he could not hold the milky white stone in his mouth to prevent others from discovering it. Anyway, after entering Star Sky University, he would cultivate on this planet for a long time, and there would be many opportunities to absorb spiritual energy. All candidates, get ready for energy transmission. The voice sounded again. The gravity of the Emperor Star is 3 times that of Earth, so everyone must adapt to it first. Our first destination is the human base. A wave of energy seeped out and gradually wrapped around Jiangli. Then the hatch opened, and he was transported out by the energy. When he landed, he was already in a huge human base. All kinds of candidates appeared one by one. There were hundreds of thousands of them, not just on Earth, but on all the human bases on other planets. They had all survived the trial on Rakshasa Star and passed the first round of exams, but there were still various tests waiting for them. So many powerful human candidates. There are indeed hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Before Jiangli had time to look around, the entire base suddenly opened up. He suddenly felt his body tighten, and his body made cracking sounds. There seemed to be many things pressing down on his brain, and his vision blurred. Every part of his body was tightly bound and compressed. It was gravity. 3 times gravity. The gravity of the Emperor Star was 3 times that of Earth, and it was very strong. If an ordinary person lived on it, they would not be able to withstand the pressure and faint in a short while. However, none of the students present fainted. Their physical fitness was much stronger than ordinary people. Those who were qualified to take the first round of the exam were powerhouses with vitality of at least 1 and above. After the elimination on Rakshasa Star, those who could survive were at least people with vitality of 1. 3. Such people could barely withstand 3 times the gravity, but their movements were not as agile. Jiangli quickly circulated the blood in his body and took a deep breath. About an hour later, all kinds of discomfort disappeared. His vitality had reached 2. 1, which was too strong. 3 times the gravity didn't affect him much. Only 5 or 10 times the gravity could make him faint. The broadcast of Star Sky University didn't sound. It seemed that this hour was to let many students adapt to the environment. If someone fainted, it would mean elimination. Dong, dong, dong. Within this hour, many people fainted and were immediately carried out by soldiers in white mecha. Everyone seems to have adapted to the gravity environment. Next, walk and run to the exam site. Everyone has an optical computer. Your computer chip has designated the location. The broadcast sounded again. Jiangli didn't have time to think too much. His chip showed the location of his optical computer about 5 kilometers ahead. He had to run there. All the students received the news and began to run. Under the pressure of 3 times the gravity, doing a lot of exercise, running, fighting is simply courting death. Blood vessels and nerves will explode. However, they must run. Otherwise, they will lose the exam qualification and be eliminated again. The second round of Star Sky University's exam begins now. Jiangli took large strides forward, and after 15 minutes, he arrived at the examination location. He saw rows upon rows of semi-sealed cubicles, each with a large optical computer. One of the optical computers displayed his information, and with a swipe of his eye chip, a cluster of questions immediately appeared on it. Doing the questions under 3 times the gravity was very difficult. Just thinking about it made his brain explode. His brain cells couldn't bear it all. However, his brain cells were much stronger than the average person. He didn't care about the congestion in his brain. His fingers flew as he answered the questions. However, these questions were very difficult. He couldn't even solve some of them, so he had to leave them blank. Fortunately, Star Sky University's cultural exam didn't necessarily require a full score. If he couldn't solve the questions, very few people could. About 3 hours later, all the questions were finished. The system immediately gave a score. Cultural score, 78 points. Qualified. Enter the next round of the combat exam. Once you pass the combat exam, you'll be admitted to Star Sky University. Even with Jiang Li's knowledge, he could only get 78 points. It was clear that the difficulty of the questions was very high. A large number of people will certainly be eliminated. Finally, I passed the cultural exam. I wonder how Luohan and Serene did. Jiang Li slightly clenched his fist. There was only one last round left. I wonder what the combat exam is about this time. Could it be the martial arts master system? Or the enhanced version of the martial arts master system? Under the influence of 3 times the gravity, fighting was very difficult. Even he could only display half of his usual fighting strength. But in the last round, he had to fight to the death. But he wasn't worried. His vitality and martial arts experience were very rich. If he couldn't pass, then among hundreds of thousands of people, only less than 10 could pass. It was impossible for Starsky University to recruit 10 people every year. Usually, it was 3,000 people. With this mentality, he entered a sealed room for the last round of the combat exam. Chapter 102. The sealed room was pitch black, but then energy flickered, illuminating the entire room. Countless energy rings finally formed a person. This person was tall and sturdy, wearing loose clothes and a large coat. The most eye-catching thing about him was his big beard. It could be said to be a horn beard, like thatch and sharp swords. The first impression he gave was that he was the ancient General Zhang Fei who had returned to the human world. But looking closely, this man had a tranquil and deep aura, with a tortoise's back and a crane's body, carrying a Taoist aura. He was like the Tang dynasty's Qiu Shuka, an overseas swordsman floating above the mortal world. After observing for a while, the man's aura changed again. He was like a god looking down from above. His hands were like mountains, and with a slight movement, he could completely suppress any strong enemy. It's actually Jiang Li's eyes widened. Martial ancestor Ba Liming. Isn't this test a little too insane? Martial ancestor Ba Liming was one of the martial arts experts of the Empire era 200 years ago. It was rumored that he was good friends with the world's #1 expert, Wang Chao. His martial arts were divine, and his cultivation could be said to have reached the heavens and the earth. His will traverse the 3 realms, the void, the flesh, and the material world, without any obstruction. It was unknown whether this person was dead or alive. But even if he was a martial artist of the Empire era, if he reached the highest realm in martial arts, it was not impossible for him to live for 120 to 150 years. At that time, he would be able to obtain the essence of technology and extend his lifespan. Moreover, many martial artists of the Empire era died in the 3 world wars. Although the test this time was an energy body, it was obvious that the essence of Ba Liming's martial arts had been infused into it. The martial arts of such a person could be said to be superb and had reached the acme of perfection. Every casual move was natural and majestic. It was the unity of heaven and man. Just the aura alone was difficult to resist. Looking at the energy body's aura, Jiang Li's heart trembled. This was not rare. In ancient times, there were some portraits of people that could ward off evil. Moreover, martial ancestor Ba Liming was someone that no ancient general could compare to. The test is about to begin. You will face the energy body of martial ancestor Ba Liming. It mainly tests your combat ability and martial arts essence. It doesn't matter if you are defeated. As long as you can obtain the system's approval, you will pass. You will have 10 minutes to adjust your mood. The system's voice sounded. Jiang Li immediately adjusted himself and entered a state of clear skies and boundless martial arts. 10 minutes later, the system announced, "The assessment begins." Rumble. As soon as his voice rang out, martial ancestor Ba Liming's energy form moved. He didn't flicker, jump, or dash. He simply took a step forward, and it was as if a mountain was crushing down on him. His fist parted, shook, and exploded. Bang, 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 bang. Jiang Li immediately saw thousands of mountain-like fists coming at him with an earth-shattering force. He could only see the fists but not the shadows. There was simply no way to escape. This is a random shooting of arrows. Jiang Li had also learned this move before. In fact, the military piercing fist was also developed from this martial art. However, this was the first time he had seen someone use random arrows to such a ferocious degree. This wasn't random arrow shooting, but random mountain crushing. Fists after fists bombarded down like huge mountains, making it hard for people to breathe. Roar! Jiang Li had no other choice but to use the dragon-snake combination attack. His left hand was a dragon, and his right hand was a snake. They twined around each other, forming a huge yin and yang circle, constantly dispersing the incoming fists. His blood and chi fluctuated with each collision. In 30 seconds, he blocked hundreds of punches, and finally, he couldn't hold on any longer. He was sent flying, and his body was punched dozens of times. He lay on the ground, unable to move. One move, just one move, and Zhongli was defeated. He couldn't even move his fingers. He was shocked. Martial ancestor Ba Liming's energy form is so powerful. I was defeated in just one move. Am I going to fail this exam? Impossible. If I fail, how many people can pass? But he was easily knocked to the ground. Martial ancestor Ba Liming stared coldly at Zhongli and then dispersed. Ding dong. The system's voice sounded. Martial arts experience, superior, completely qualified. Congratulations, you have qualified to enter Star Sky University. From now on, you are a student of Star Sky University, a reserve elite of humanity. In the future, you will contribute to humanity, protect ordinary people, and become a hero. That is your responsibility. The cold and emotionless voice sounded pleasing to Zhongli's ears. He felt a joy he had never felt before. Finally passed. So many years of hard work just to stand out. Now that he was finally admitted to Star Sky University, he was no longer an ordinary person, but a reserve elite of humanity. Even the system's voice was congratulating him, hoping that he would become a hero to protect humanity. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Every student of Star Sky University needs to protect humanity. Their responsibility is to resist foreign enemies. No matter how powerful the enemy is, they must fight. Star Sky University students are more soldier than soldiers. A stream of energy entered Zhongli's body, and his injuries began to heal. This was the system's automatic treatment. Star Sky University's system and Starflower City High School system are not on the same level of technology. One is a god, the other is an ant. DDD. As soon as the system finished speaking, Zhongli's chip began to vibrate. A lot of information came from it. First, it congratulated him for becoming a student of Star Sky University. Then a stream of energy wrapped around the chip and began to upgrade it. This kind of technology that directly uses energy to upgrade has not been popularized outside. Ordinary people can't enjoy it. It could also use energy to wrap around you and send you outside. In the blink of an eye, you could travel tens of kilometers away. This was energy teleportation, and it was the most technologically advanced among humans. Rumor has it that the most advanced mech of mankind, the Holy Mech, is a powerful energy body that is implanted into the human body, turning into a Taoist golden core. With a thought, the powerful energy will wrap around the body, allowing it to fly. Rumble. The chip began to upgrade. Many energy circuits formed. In the end, it turned into a glittering chip, like a medal, with the words Star Sky University written on it. In the future, as long as you take out this chip, you will be a high-ranking member of the human society. No one will dare to disrespect Star Sky University students, and you will have many privileges. This was something that countless students on Earth dreamed of. I wonder how many students will be admitted this year? Can Luohan and Sharon pass? If their vitality is still 1. 3. They definitely won't be able to pass. But now it's 1. 7. There should be a lot of hope. Zhongli took the glittering chip and carefully put it away. He knew that his identity is different now, and his information has been entered into the human system's computer. However, this information is secretly sealed. Only when all the exam results are out will it be announced to the public. Therefore, in the current human society, even the government officials, no one can know the results of the exam, not even the life or death of their children. Zhongli, the exam is over. Please go to the lounge and wait for the results of the other candidates. The school will customize a set of school uniform for you and provide various channels for you. You can use the school's network to pay for all kinds of medicine. The forbidden medicine of humans is no longer illegal for you. The system explained again. Then, a stream of energy sent Zhongli to a spacious hall. He sat in front of a wide metal table, on which there are many nutritional supplements, including the essence of the sun and moon. These forbidden medicines are no longer illegal for him. In other words, he can carry the essence of the sun and moon on the streets and drink it at will. If the police find out that he is a student of Starry Sky University, they won't punish him. But he can't sell it to others. It's illegal. This is to supplement nutrition after the exam, and he can even spend money to buy all kinds of forbidden medicines in Starry Sky University. The market of Starry Sky University is much bigger than the black market. He looked around and suddenly shivered because he found a few people sitting upright and still, also taking a variety of nutritional supplements. Obviously, they have passed the exam earlier than him. There are about 7 or 8 people. Each of them has a strong aura, and their vitality is at least 2 or above. He can even guess their spiritual state. They can definitely meditate. These are the most powerful people among the human candidates. They don't look around, take the supplements, and then close their eyes to meditate. Each of them has a unique temperament, independent of the world. Jiangli wanted to say hello to these people, but looking at their temperament, he knew that they are 1,000 miles away. Forget it, don't ask for trouble. However, he knows that after passing the exam, there is still the ranking competition, and he will definitely fight with these people. At the thought of this, his blood boiled, and his fighting spirit surged without the slightest fear. To be able to fight with the world's top experts is his long-cherished wish. He also ate and drank without looking sideways. Subsequently, more and more people enter the hall. All of them are people who passed the exam. Jiangli looked around, trying to see if Luohan and Serene are here, but he didn't see them. He felt a little uneasy. Could it be that both of them were eliminated? That shouldn't be possible. 7 vitality makes no reason for them to be eliminated. Whoosh whoosh. Just as he was worrying, 2 slender and elegant figures appeared in the hall at the same time. It was Luohan and Serene. Both of them passed the exam, and their faces were still filled with excitement. Being admitted to Starry Sky University is much higher than being the top scholar in ancient times. One step into the upper class. How can it not be excited? Even people who meditate will not be able to control their emotions. Unless it is Chongding, then there is no fear, no joy, no sorrow. Only those who have the potential to become the bodhisattva of 8 earthly realms will not move, will not retreat. Originally, when the 2 girls saw Jiang Li, they wanted to shout excitedly, but seeing the atmosphere in the hall, they simultaneously fell silent and sat in their respective seats, quietly eating and drinking. Serene turned her head and quietly winked at Jiang Li, her eyes twinkling like countless little stars, the corners of her mouth curved into a smile, looking very proud. Seeing this, Luohan pinched Serene's chin, turned her head, picked up a bottle of moon spirit essence, and stuffed it into her mouth. Serene lightly snorted, opened her mouth, and drank. The two's actions caused Jiang Li to laugh in his heart. He quickly averted his gaze. The students who passed the exam entered the hall one after another. In the end, about 3,000 people came in, and then it stopped. Jiang Li found that Henry and Lilith did not pass, and knew that they were eliminated in the exam. Henry's vitality of 1. 5 was eliminated. It was a pity that he lacked a little bit of luck. Jiang Li secretly scanned around and found that there were 2 or 3 students in the capital who also passed the exam. When they saw Jiang Li, Luohan, and Serene, they were suddenly shocked, very afraid. But then they sent a kind smile to Jiang Li, showing goodwill. Before, when Jiang Li killed Yu Muhua and Jiang Lu, he also threatened them. These people were very angry. But now that everyone is a student of Starry Sky University, with the same identity, they know that there is no benefit in going against Jiang Li. So, they must show goodwill. Chapter 103. All the students who had passed the exam were having their meals in the hall. No one spoke. It was very quiet, trying their best to suppress the excitement in their hearts. About half an hour later, a broadcast sounded. Congratulations, you've been admitted. However, this is just the beginning. Your fate has also changed, and your responsibilities will be different from those of ordinary people. From now on, you can rest here for 3 days. 3 days later will be the ranking competition, where your ranking and treatment will be determined. Now, we've informed your families about your exam results through the human government. Of course, you can also send them the good news through mail. Now, you can move around freely. The Chip will tell you some rules. Asterisk rumble. The atmosphere in the hall immediately relaxed after the announcement of free time. Many people could not suppress their excitement. They gathered together and began to talk, fantasizing about a beautiful future. Of course, there was still a group of students who were incomparably cold. Jiangli saw some strong students walk out, as if to familiarize themselves with the environment of the Star University. This was the entrance department for new students, not the actual university. I'll go back to my room and send a message to my family. Jiangli called out to Luohan and Serene and returned to his room to rest. Now that he could connect to the internet, he was anxious to know if his family was safe. At the same time, he had to greet the security company. They exchanged a few words. Luohan and Serene were also anxious to report to their families, so they returned to their respective rooms. Rooms were numbered, and AI chip showed how to get to them. Jiangli walked according to the AI chip's instructions and soon arrived at his room. This room was about 300 square meters, with floor-to-ceiling crystal glass. He could see the scenery of the Emperor's Star in the distance. This was a human base, and outside was a primeval forest, mountains, and rivers. He could even see many strange birds and animals flying around. They were abnormally ferocious, and their bodies were very large. It was as if he had arrived in a dream world. In fact, this was the world of science fiction. The gravity on the Emperor's Star was 3 times that of Earth, and it contained more spiritual energy than planet Quaking Wave. This led to the creatures that evolved over billions of years to become very powerful. Outside the human base, there was danger everywhere. The gravity on planet Crooked Wave was the same as that on Earth. The creatures on planet Crooked Wave were unbelievably strong, not to mention the creatures on Emperor's Star. However, Zhongli did not have the time to read all kinds of information about Star Sky University. Instead, he began to send emails. The first email was not to his parents, but to Dahe. Dahe, I've been admitted to Starry Sky University and am now on the Emperor's Star. Have you evolved successfully? If successful, please reply. He sent the email out. He was a little worried. If Dahe failed to evolve, he would lose a good brother. Roar. This lord has successfully evolved. Dahe's video popped up. But if you want to continue evolving, you'll need a large amount of sky-shaking Thunder Beast gene potion. Have you been admitted to Starry Sky University? Very good, this is what I should do. If you can't pass, then you can go hang yourself. How are my parents? Zhongli asked eagerly. They're fine. I just want to see them yesterday. Dahe said. I also took care of a few people from the Sun and Moon Group. That's good. Zhongli was relieved. Has the Sun and Moon Group made any moves recently? In the Great Cultivation Ruins, Hua City's black market, Dahe waved its paws. The business is getting bigger and bigger. The security group's business has been suppressed, but other than that, they haven't done anything excessive. That Jiang Jinyue is waiting for his son to be admitted to Starry Sky University. Why? Did he try to kill you during the exam? Kill me. Jiang Li's expression showed a trace of ruthlessness. He was killed by me, and that you Mu Hua, they will soon receive the news. The reason for their son's death will also be told to them by someone who knows about it. So, you have to be on guard against them doing something desperate. Protect my parents. No problem. With my current strength, no one in the Sun and Moon Group can compete with me. Dahe waved his hand. And they won't dare to act recklessly in Hua City. As for the big bosses in Beijing, it's a bit difficult. But since you become a student of Starry Sky University, they have to be cautious. At least they won't dare to openly arrest you. Everything will depend on you. After I finish participating in the ranking competition, if I can enter the top 10, my status will increase. At that time, they will definitely not dare to touch my parents. Zhongli pondered. Do you need the gene potion of the Sky Tremor Thunder Beast? No problem. I can buy it from Starry Sky University's online market. You can buy anything in Starry Sky University. As long as you have money, you can even buy mechas and battleships. That powerful. Dahe was stunned. Then hurry up and check it. Also, learn more about genetics. Help me complete my evolution in the future. Of course, Zhongli didn't come to Starry Sky University just to improve his strength. It was necessary to learn a lot of knowledge. For example, how to improve the essence of the sun and moon, study the human body's endocrine system, and study the structure of various genes. A deeper understanding of the mysteries of the human body would also be of great help to his cultivation. After chatting with Dahe for a while, Zhongli checked his bank account and discovered that there was actually 78 million star dollars in it. These were all obtained by Dahe from the black market. Dahe's strength was originally extremely tyrannical. After entering meditation, he almost swept the black market. Then he risked his life and injected the sky-shaking Thunder Beast gene potion, evolving into a flying cat. His body was now invulnerable, and his brain cells were several times stronger. His hypnotic ability far surpassed that of a mid-level hypnotist. Such a terrifying ability to operate in the black market had already set off a huge undercurrent. 10 gang leaders were secretly controlled by him, and he obtained a huge amount of wealth from them. After hanging up the video call with Dahe, Zhongli sent an email to his parents. Dad, Mom, Sister, I've already been admitted to Starry Sky University. After participating in the ranking competition, I can go home. As soon as the email was sent, his father, Jiang Zhendong's video call immediately popped up. His face was incomparably excited. Good son, we've waited for many days, and finally, this good news. Zhendong, the government informed us to hold a press conference, saying that our son has been admitted to Starry Sky University and our parents are going to Beijing. Now, the government's motorcade has arrived, and there are many reporters outside. His mother appeared in the camera, and when she saw Jiang Li, she was immediately surprised. Ali, it's you? Are you injured? Mom, I'm fine. I'm on the Emperor Star, resting at the Starry Sky University's base. Jiang Li hurriedly reported that he was safe. That's good, that's good. His mother cried tears of joy. Let's go. The government's motorcade is waiting. Jiang Zhendong was able to remain calm. Ali, take good care of yourself. We're going to attend the press conference. Okay, you guys take care too. Jiang Li saw that his father hung up the video call, and a smile appeared on his face. The government's press conference was a global event, where even the entire human race. His family would be interviewed by various news media. Under the halo of this worldwide news, the Sun and Moon Group and Starry Sky University's big shots will be helpless no matter how powerful they were. Beijing was also a base of the Sun and Moon Group. The Sun and Moon Group bought an ocean, built an island, and the base was on the island. The scenery was picturesque, suitable for self-cultivation. But now, the owner of the island was pale, paralyzed on the chair. This person was Jiang Zhenyue. Lu Er is dead? His face was pale. How could this be? Lu Er was injected with the genetic potion successfully and was promoted to a meditative state. His vitality of 2 is one of the best among the candidates on Earth. How could he die? Just now, he received news from the government that his son died in the trial of Rakshasa Star. Until now, he couldn't believe this fact. The big screen of the optical computer played the news of Star Sky University everywhere. A host continuously changed the screen. Everyone, the results of the Star Sky University exam are finally out. This is the report from the front line. A total of 53 candidates from Earth were admitted. Now the entire human government is holding a press conference, inviting the parents of these candidates to congratulate them. Then, the students' parents appeared one by one. Jiang Zhenyue immediately saw a middle-aged man. It was Jiang Zhendong. Damn it! His vision darkened, and he almost had a heart attack. Jiang Zhendong received an invitation, which obviously meant that his son had been admitted to Star Sky University. His status was completely different, and it would be more difficult to deal with him in the future. Although the Sun and Moon Group was very large, they couldn't do anything to Star Sky University. Jiang Zhendong, how could it be your son? My son died. This is impossible. He flew into a rage and smashed the desk with a punch. Beep, beep, beep. A call came in, and a middle-aged man appeared on the screen. He was one of the big shots in Beijing, and he had a lot of power. Hello, Mr. Yutong. Jiang Zhenyue didn't dare to neglect. Hello, Mr. Zhenyue. The middle-aged man on the screen had a cold look in his eyes. My son, Yu Muhua, also died in the exam. He was a friend of your son, Jiang Lu. You must have received the bad news. What the hell happened? Jiang Jinyue immediately felt that something was wrong. I found out that Muhua and Jianglu didn't die a natural death. They were killed in the exam. Although Yu Tong's words were calm, Jiang Jinyue could feel that he was on the verge of exploding. Who? Jiang Jinyue roared. Jiang Li, Jiang Zhendong's son, Jiang Li. He has been admitted to Star Sky University. According to the feedback from the candidates, his strength is extremely tyrannical, and he even has a chance to enter the top 10 in the ranking competition. Yu Tong's expression was filled with extreme cold anger. Mr. Jinyue, killing a candidate in the exam is normal behavior, and it is not restricted by the law. We don't have any evidence, and Star Sky University won't care about these things. What do you think we should do? We must avenge Jianglu and Muhua. Kill! Jiang Jinyue roared in a low voice. Kill Jiang Zhendong. Kill Jiang Li's family. Then kill that little bastard, Jiang Li. Chapter 104. Mr. Jinyue wants to kill Jiang Zhendong's family for revenge? That's not an easy task. Yu Tong's voice was ferocious. Jiang Zhendong's two sons, the eldest son Jiang Li was admitted to Starry Sky University. We can't do anything to him. The youngest son Jiang Tao has a mysterious identity and has entered the army. I heard that he was appreciated by a big shot in the elite area and was accepted as a disciple. What? Appreciated by a big shot in the elite area? Jiang Jinyue's body was like a deflated balloon. How could this be? Which big shot is it? I don't know the specifics. Yu Tong's hateful tone seemed to overflow from the screen. The reason I called you is that we have to be patient. Don't be impulsive for the time being. We have to think about revenge in the long run. Think about it in the long run. Jiang Jinyue's face was ashen. This matter, my son and Moon Group will do it. The Jiang family can't die in vain. He hung up the phone while speaking. Jiang Zhendong, you're really brave. I will report this matter to the old man and let him make the decision. Now the nature is completely different. A Jiang family bastard that shouldn't have appeared in this world dared to kill a direct descendant of the Jiang family. What can we do in the future? I think some of the old men in the family won't allow this to happen. He immediately began to write an email to the family's old man. The death of a direct descendant is a big deal. Security group. Chu Cece was also watching the news interview on the big screen. Her face lit up with joy. Jiang Li really lived up to expectations. He was admitted to Starry Sky University. After the ranking competition, he will come back to rest for about 3 months, then officially go to university. In these 3 months, he can use his identity to do many things and destroy the Sun and Moon Group in one fell swoop. Chu Shan's figure appeared on the big screen. CC. This time Jiang Li was admitted to Starry Sky University. You and the company's people make a plan and report it to the security group's senior management. We will launch a great counterattack against the Sun and Moon Group, and the sharpest spear is Jiang Li. He will be the vanguard. Okay, Emperor Star. Jiang Li calmed down. He knew that Dahe the cat was safe and that his parents were safe. He felt like a weight had been lifted off his chest, and he could proceed with the qualifying competition without any worries. I wonder how Wang Changrong is doing in the depths of space. Could it be that he's dead? Jiang Li's spiritual force quietly penetrated into the milky white stone and opened a spatial gap. He saw that the entire space expanded again. It was 6 meters high and more than 300 square meters. It doubled in size. It seemed like his guess was right. Every time the wormhole jumped, it absorbed the power of the wormhole spatial folding, and the space in the stone would expand. As for Wang Changrong, he was still sitting upright. His body had not ruptured. A powerful aura surged out from his body, creating huge waves in the air. Jiang Li opened a spatial rift and let air in. Wang Changrong immediately opened his eyes. Jiang Li, you're on another planet. I can feel a very strong gravity, and the air is filled with heaven and earth spiritual chi. It's a pity that I can't absorb it. His divine will rushed over fiercely. You've become stronger? Jiang Li was shocked. Not only have you recovered all your strength, but you've also raised your cultivation to the limit. Your vitality is probably more than 2. 5 now. Also, your spiritual cultivation has reached the Deding realm, right? That's right. I I have to thank you for this space. When this space absorbed energy and expanded, it actually injected a type of spatial energy into my cells. This allowed every cell to completely recover its vitality and store more energy, making it even stronger. Not only has my strength completely recovered, but it has also increased rapidly. My vitality should be at 2.6 now. Wang Changrong laughed out loud. Also, more importantly, my spiritual cultivation has reached a ding. 3 stages of meditation. Small ding, big ding, constant ding. The spiritual power of the ding was much stronger than that of small ding. With just a slight sweep, it could hypnotize many people. Wang Changrong was definitely a powerhouse now. I was afraid that you would suffocate to death, so I changed your breathing. Now that we're on the Emperor's Star, you can't come out yet. When I return to Earth after the qualifiers, you can come back to the human world. Zhongli said, here are some nutrient drinks. You can use them to survive. Okay, I've already waited for so long. What's the point of waiting a little longer? Wang Changrong narrowed his eyes and said thoughtfully, the Emperor's Star? This is where the Star Sky University is located. The entire planet is extremely dangerous, but there are also many opportunities. The Emperor's Star is extremely rich in spirit stones. If you can find a few, you'll immediately become rich. You've been to the Emperor's Star before. Zhongli frowned. That's right. When we first explored the Emperor's Star, I was still in the army. I happened to be one of the first people to explore this planet. You must be careful. The average gravity on the Emperor's Star is 3 times that of Earth. However, there are some dangerous areas where the gravity is 10 times or even tens of times that of Earth. Once you step into those areas, your blood will spurt out and you'll crush yourself to death. Those places are where spirit stones are buried. Also, there are ancient ruins on the Emperor's Star. Wang Changrong chuckled. I wish you good luck. I'm going to start cultivating and familiarize myself with the cells in my body that have been modified by the wormhole. Okay, take your time to cultivate. The space expanded and Wang Changrong felt very comfortable living there. In addition, Zhongli had changed the air of the Emperor's Star for him. The space was filled and he greedily breathed in, comprehending many things. Zhongli activated the optical computer chip and began to look up the information of the Star Sky University. At the same time, he observed the environment of the Emperor's Star. The Star Sky University had already passed a lot of information to the chip. The first thing new students needed to learn was this basic knowledge. Fortunately, every new student was an outstanding talent. They knew many of the rules of the university and did not need to be specially taught. Sure enough, the base where Zhongli lived was the freshman department of the Star Sky University. It was about 100 square kilometers. The base was surrounded by many technological means to resist the invasion of the various monsters on the Emperor's Star. The various monsters on the Emperor's Star. Zhongli then opened the information and found that there were hundreds of thousands of introductions, including the Sky Tremor Thunder Beast. Sky Tremor Thunder Beast, a large feline animal. It can fly, absorb lightning, and release lightning. It can break a tree 10 kilometers away and set it on fire. Its physical strength is converted to a human's vitality, which is more than 10. It is classified as an extremely dangerous monster. There are also all kinds of dangerous animals. Even a mosquito beetle could be fatal. However, the Star Sky University encouraged students to go out of the base and kill all kinds of monsters outside to hone themselves. The monsters they killed could also be handed over to the Star Sky University's marketing department to be converted into star dollars. The entire Emperor's Star was a huge training ground. At the same time, Zhongli also checked the various environments on the Emperor's Star, such as storms, heavy rain, lightning, the weather within the thunder, and the geological changes. He found that the storms on the Emperor's Star were very powerful. Sometimes, when they erupted, they could even sweep up mountains and lakes. It was very likely that a mountain would suddenly fall from the sky and smash down. This was definitely not an alarmist. However, the Star Sky University's base did not matter. Even if a meteorite fell, it could detect it in advance and launch a missile to shatter it in the air. The thunder was also very powerful. Often, the sonic boom could kill many animals and people. In addition, the entire planet's geological activity was very frequent. There were often volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes were not uncommon. However, the entire planet was full of treasures. Even the simplest wood was precious on Earth. Under the influence of 3 times the gravity and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the structure of the wood was very hard and heavy. It could even be made into swords, and the quality surpassed alloy steel. What a strange planet. Unfortunately, the gravity is too abnormal, the geological activity is frequent, and the weather changes are violent. Otherwise, it would really be suitable for large-scale human immigration. Jiangli carefully read the information. After a while, the sky darkened. The sky was dotted with stars, but he still couldn't see the Milky Way. It was another star system. There was no other way. Although there were many planets in the Milky Way, there were very few suitable for human habitation. Planets with spiritual energy of heaven and earth had not been discovered yet. Therefore, humans must jump out of the Milky Way and find planets with abundant resources. Originally, humans wanted to build a base on planet Cubo, but they found a more suitable Emperor star as the location of the Star-Sky University, so planet Cubo was left empty. However, with the development of humans, that planet would be developed sooner or later. Ding dong! The Star-Sky University uniform made according to your physique has arrived. Please check. A beautiful female voice sounded out of thin air. Then, there was a vibration of energy transmission in the wardrobe. Jiangli opened the wardrobe, and a set of school uniform appeared in front of him. It was a silver school uniform, tailored very well. The material was a polymer that was basically impossible to destroy. There were gloves, boots, and even a helmet. When Jiangli put on the school uniform, he looked straight and handsome. In an instant, he was like a different person. He had the temperament of a military guard of honor. No name brand could compare to this uniform. It was unknown how many master designers had made this uniform. Boys looked handsome and practical in it, and girls looked even more valiant in it. Moreover, this uniform was also a combat uniform. After tidying it up and putting on the helmet, it could prevent mosquitoes and insects from biting them. It could even prevent poisonous gases from entering the human body. Not even bacteria could enter. Any student would fall in love with this school uniform at first glance. Wearing this school uniform, no matter where you went, you would have a noble and elegant feeling. It wouldn't be shameful, but it would attract people's attention. Jiangli looked at himself in the mirror. His spirit and temperament were highlighted. His current height was 9 meters. His body was strong and slender. He didn't have any excess fat or obvious muscles. He was very good looking. Experts didn't rely on their muscles to produce explosive power. Instead, it was a kind of internal earth energy. Jiangli's body originally had muscles, but after a long period of training, his muscles had transformed into stronger fascia. When he breathed, his whole body was like a skin bag. When he attacked, his earth energy vibrated. This was the ancient martial art of cutting hair and washing the marrow. Tonight, I'll leave this base and stroll around the Emperor's Star. I'll find a place where there's no one around to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Let's see how strong the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is on the Emperor's Star. Jiangli couldn't wait. He left the room and flew out. About half an hour later, he reached the entrance of the base. He swiped the I chip, and a stream of energy appeared at the entrance of the base. It lifted him up and sent him out. Students could leave the base to train at any time, but they weren't responsible for any accidents. Chapter 105. As soon as he stepped out of the human base, Jiang Li's spirit immediately became highly concentrated. This was because he felt danger lurking in every corner of the primeval forest. This was different from Planet Crooked Wave. Although the monsters on Planet Crooked Wave were powerful, they did not exceed common sense. On the other hand, even a mosquito on the Emperor's Star contained great destructive power. Fortunately, Jiang Li wore his helmet, tied up his sleeves, and wrapped himself up tightly. He went deep into the primeval forest, wanting to find a place that was not easily discovered. Then he could start the embryonic breathing process of absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual chi. Here, he did not have the idea of looking for spirit stones, because if there were spirit stones, they would have already been collected. After much difficulty, he found a cave. He used his spiritual power to permeate it and found that there was no danger in the cave. There was not even a crawling insect. Then he drilled into the cave and put the milky white stone in his mouth. Immediately, he entered the embryonic breathing state again. Woo, woo, woo. The moment he entered the embryonic breathing state, he felt a whirlwind around him. Countless heaven and earth spiritual chi was attracted and swarmed into his pores. He almost choked to death. The heaven and earth spiritual chi here was too rich and too violent. Relatively speaking, the heaven and earth spiritual chi on planet Crooked Wave was as calm as a virgin, while the spiritual chi on the Emperor Star was like a violent and ferocious man. His body trembled, and blood seeped out of all the pores on Jiang Li's body. This was caused by the heaven and earth spiritual chi rushing into the depths of his cells and beginning to transform his body. Because the heaven and earth spiritual chi here was too strong, he felt like he was being cut into pieces every time he absorbed it. However, the lightning needle body tempering technique he practiced on Earth was similar to this, so he treated it as if it was nothing. His spirit was not shaken, and he slowly stimulated his body's endocrine system to accept the heaven and earth spiritual chi, making his fascia even more perfect. Every inch of his bones, muscles, and organs were undergoing stronger changes under the influence of the heaven and earth spiritual chi. Especially his brain cells, they were constantly strengthening, and the depths of his body were constantly storing energy. Jiang Li's whole body was like a bellow. When he shrank, he became a dry corpse. When he stood up, he was burly and majestic, almost 2 meters tall, and he became a giant. His flexibility were greatly increased under the influence of the heaven and earth spiritual chi. The toughness of his bones had also reached an unimaginable level. Now, as long as he breathed in, he would become a 5-meter tall dwarf. When he inflated, he would be more than 2 meters tall. His hands and feet would be thick, and his bones would be made of iron, just like a mountain-splitting giant. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was constantly being absorbed into his body, tempering his tendons and membranes. Jiang Li had completed the martial arts transformation that was impossible on Earth. Without the spiritual energy of the world, it would have been impossible to achieve this. However, it was rumored that more than 200 years ago on Earth, there were some martial arts grandmasters who did not need any spiritual energy or high-tech nutritional supplements. They relied on their instinctive insight into the minutiae of the body to complete the transformation and could also reach this level. Jiang Li couldn't imagine what kind of spiritual cultivation this was. It was likely that he had already discovered the secrets of his genes and was subconsciously evolving in the direction of becoming stronger. It's really admirable. After an unknown period of time, he woke up and spat out the stone. He put it away and hung it around his neck like an ornament. No high-tech equipment could detect it. Jiang Li observed his body and realized that much of the fat in his body had disappeared. What was left was a kind of compact and sturdy existence that was similar to basic meat. He knew that his cells had completed a perfect arrangement under the scouring of the heaven and earth spiritual chi and had started to store energy. Now, with the support of the heaven and earth spiritual chi, he could at least not eat or drink for a month and completely become like the Taoist priests in ancient times. His body was even more perfect and delicate. When he didn't circulate his energy, his skin was as white as sheep's fat. Once he circulated his energy, his skin would immediately be like bronze, like black iron, like densely packed scales. With a slight tremble, his gang energy would explode in all directions. Shoo! He spat out a breath of air and actually blew the stone that was the size of a human head out of the cave. My breath has become so powerful. My embryonic breath has actually grown to such an extent. If I cultivate it for a long time, will I reach the level where I can kill people with my breath? Rumor has it that in the era of the country, The #1 expert in the world, Wang Chao, had already reached the level where he could kill people with his breath. How condensed was that aura? Zhongli had doubts about martial arts again. Therefore, he opened up a small gap and asked Wang Changrong, "Brat, how did your aura become so powerful?" Wang Changrong was shocked. "Your vitality should have reached 2. 2. Also, the heaven and earth spiritual qi in your body has become much denser. Did you use spirit stones?" I want to ask you, in the era of the ancient country, rumor has it that the Wang clan's ancestor could kill people with his breath. Is that true? I find it hard to imagine. In that era, there were no nutrients, no heaven and earth spiritual qi, and science was so backward that it was scary. How could one cultivate so well? How much difference is there between my current physical ability and that of your ancestor? Zhongli asked. I tried just now. It's impossible for me to gather my qi. At most, I can only blow stones away. I don't have the power to kill people with my breath. Kill people with my breath? That's the legendary Taoist flying sword. Once it opens its mouth, white gas will shoot out. Within 10 steps, a person's head will be cut off. Wang Changrong's expression was solemn. To be able to do this in that era is simply a miracle. To be able to do this, one must condense their internal organs and condense their qi into an extreme point in the dantian. In an instant, an explosive force will surge. As he spoke, he took a deep breath and blew. Whoosh! A white line rushed out from his mouth. It seemed to have the power of a sword. However, it soon dissipated. With my 2.6 vitality, I can barely do this. However, it's still not enough to kill people. It's difficult to cut through the skin. My Wang clan's ancestor, Wang Chao, could really kill people with his breath. Wang Changrong's eyes lit up. Brat, you have spirit stones on you. How about giving me one? I'll buy it according to the market price. I can even increase the price. I don't have spirit stones. I won't hide it from you. Actually, it's all thanks to this stone. When I hold it in my mouth, I can enter the embryonic state. From there, I can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It's not like I have spirit stones. Zhongli shook his head. Anyway, Wang Changrong knew the secret of his space. Moreover, this stone has recognized me as its master. Only I have this ability. Embryonic state. Wang Changrong was shocked. Brat, do you know how terrifying the realm of embryonic breathing is? To achieve embryonic breathing, you must first form a holy fetus, using your spirit to condense into a Taoist holy fetus. Then, using the holy fetus to resonate with heaven and earth. Finally, you can breathe with your heart. This stage has stumped countless heroes. Even in Starry Sky University, not many people have reached this stage. If you recklessly move your embryonic breathing, you will be sucked dry. I know this. However, with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, I can do whatever I want. Zhongli casually moved his body. I know why I can improve by leaps and bounds. It's because this planet has 3 times the gravity. Under this kind of pressure, my cells are constantly under great pressure. Now that I've absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, my cells immediately swelled up and repeatedly fought against the gravity of the entire planet. This made my cultivation speed increase. Yes, gravity is a big part of the reason. Wang Changrong seemed to remember something. Our Wang family used to have a gravity training room. It was used to train various disciples under different gravity. I've heard of this kind of training before. Zhongli looked at the sky outside the cave. I've cultivated for the whole night. Now I have to go back and take a look. Unfortunately, my body has a limit. I can't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth endlessly. It was impossible to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth endlessly. Otherwise, the body would not be able to withstand it. Zhongli could only absorb it once a day. Moreover, he had to do a lot of training to convert the spiritual energy into vitality. However, under the situation of 3 times the gravity of Earth, his training consumed a lot of energy. If he continued to cultivate for a long time, he would be much faster than the average person. With a leap, he walked out of the cave and ran in the jungle. The morning air was very good. He saw many new students in school uniforms exploring the jungle. This student was very curious about everything on Emperor Planet. Naturally, he wanted to go out of the base to experience it. Fortunately, some of the monsters and mosquitoes near the base had been cleaned up so they would not cause any harm to people. "Hi, Henry." He was a little surprised to see Henry. He waved and greeted him. "I didn't see you in the hall yesterday. I thought you didn't pass." "Hi, Johnly. I'm ashamed to say this. Martial Ancestor Ba Liming's energy form is too strong. I barely passed the exam. I was seriously injured and went to the infirmary for treatment." Henry smiled shamefully. He hurriedly leaned over and immediately felt the powerful aura from Jiangli. He exclaimed, "Oh my God, you're too strong. You put a strong pressure on my soul. If I fight you, I'll definitely be defeated by you in one move." Henry's soul cultivation was in the third stage of deep sleep. However, it was still a long way from entering a meditative state. He hadn't even crossed the threshold of cultivation. "It's nothing much. I've made some progress in cultivation recently. There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in Starry Sky University. I must keep a low profile." Zhongli smiled faintly. He wasn't someone who liked to show off. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded in the sky. Then, a large bird landed and stood at the entrance of the base. A person jumped down from the bird. He was also a new student. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He had an imposing aura, and every movement he made had the temperament of a leader. The feathers of that giant bird were blood red, and every single feather seemed to be made of metal. It was somewhat similar to the legendary fire phoenix. With a slight cry, the sound was crisp and clear, piercing through the clouds. Jiangli actually felt the aura of a king. This is a fire god bird. It's a special creature on the Emperor's star. It's very powerful and can spit out flames that can ignite a tree. It's even more powerful than a flamethrower. Henry said enviously. He actually subdued it. His hypnotism is really strong. This new student is so strong. Jiangli was secretly shocked. This new student seemed to be stronger than Wang Chongrong. The fire god bird was obviously hypnotized by him. He was also a hypnotist in a meditative state. Before Jiangli could take a closer look, the new student had swiped his card and entered the base with the fire god bird. It was obvious that he had subdued the fire god bird last night or this morning. "Who is he? Do you know him?" "He's definitely not from our base on Earth." Jiangli asked Henry. "Moreover, he's yellow. I don't know which planet he's from." "His name is Meng Xingyun." Henry's eyes were filled with awe. He replied in his mother tongue, "He's very strong. He's from the human base on Ancient Dragon Planet. There's a lot of support for this year's new student ranking competition. He might get first place." Chapter 106. Meng Xingyun. Jiangli stared at the freshman's back, feeling that this person was extremely powerful. He was far from being his opponent. However, his sixth sense was very strange. He didn't know why, but he felt that this freshman had the temperament of a cultivator, as if he wasn't a human from Earth. That's right, he was a cultivator. Jiangli remembered in his dream the mainland of the sewers where cultivators were collectively referred to as cultivators. When translated into Earth's native language, it meant cultivator. He had experienced the temperament of cultivators many times in his dream. They came and went alone, established all kinds of sects, and did not have a unified political power. The sects of cultivators were in charge of large and small countries. Centralization of power did not appear among cultivators, and the structure was very different from that of humans. If it wasn't for his many dreams, and if it wasn't for the fact that he had practiced a cultivation technique from a foreign continent, it would have been impossible for his sixth sense to detect Meng Xingyun's cultivator temperament. Could it be that he was a spy sent by the cultivators? An idea quickly condensed in his mind. However, there was no evidence, and only he could feel it. No one else had the keen experience of cultivators like him. Sure enough, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers among the freshmen of Starry Sky University. I wonder if there are any other experts besides this Meng Xingyun? He didn't dare to lower his guard for the upcoming ranking competition. He didn't need to think about first place, because he knew that although he had a fortuitous encounter, his foundation was too shallow. There were countless talented youths in the entire human base, and he only needed to fight for the top 10. What was even more difficult was that he didn't want to use the Great Emperor Wind Seal and Great Emperor Thunder Seal. Wang Changrong could see that this martial art came from a foreign planet, so the experts of Starry Sky University could also see it. Therefore, he prepared to practice another martial art for the ranking competition. However, in a battle between experts, one must use the one they were most familiar with. Changing martial arts was a big taboo. The next night, he began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and at the same time asked Wang Changrong about martial arts. Mr. Changrong, my Great Emperor Wind Seal and Great Emperor Thunder Seal cannot be used in the ranking competition. You have rich experience in martial arts. What martial art do you think I should use? How about you teach me your Wang family's 8 trigram Thunder Palm? I'll use it against the enemy. Your Great Emperor Wind Seal and Lightning Seal are indeed easy to discover. The traces of martial arts from other planets are too strong. There are many experts in Starry Sky University, many of whom are stronger than me. Wang Changrong thought for a while and said, I can teach you the 8 trigrams Thunder Wind Palm, but this martial art might not be able to defeat the enemy. These days, I have been thinking about how to fuse your martial art with our Wang family's martial art. Now that I have some ideas, I can change the 8 trigrams Thunder Wind Palm. Let's study it together. After all, this martial art is based on the true essence of wind and thunder. If you fuse it with your 2 major seals, no one will be able to tell. They will only think that our Wang family's martial art has been improved. Please enlighten me. Jianglu was very humble. Wang Changrong's research on martial arts was indeed worthy of respect. In the remaining 2 days, Jiangli focused on learning the 8 trigram Thunder Palm passed down by Wang Changrong. Every move and stance was very serious. With the Great Emperor Seal as the foundation, learning this martial art was simply complementing each other. He was already proficient in it after a few hours, and in 2 days, it felt as if something rotten had turned into something magical. Actually, after you enter a meditative state, you can cultivate an A-rank martial art. This 8 trigram Thunder Palm is only a B-rank martial art. If you encounter an A-rank martial art, you will still be at a disadvantage. I think the top 10 of Starry Sky University are basically competing with A-rank martial arts. Wang Changrong warned, I have mastered an A-rank martial art called Great Emperor Seal. However, this martial art must be cultivated for several years or even decades. If you cultivate it now, there won't be any effect in a short period of time. You can only use a B-rank martial art to fight your opponent. A-rank martial art. Jiang Lu was shocked. He had seen this martial art before. Jiang Lu had used it before. Dragon Elephant Sky Breaking Force. It was indeed powerful, and it could burst out a person's potential by several times. He could only use the Great Emperor Wind Seal and Lightning Seal to resist. It was too late for him to learn an A-rank martial art now. Of course, as long as the person himself was powerful, not to mention an A-rank martial art, even a D-rank martial art would be able to display earth-shattering divine might. For example, someone like Martial Ancestor Ba Liming could destroy the blue dome of heaven with a simple punch. He didn't even need to make a move. Just his aura alone could cause people's spirit to collapse. This kind of person was like Buddha. Even if he walked into hell, with him as the center, hell would become a pure land of bliss. However, Jiangli was still weak, so he had to bitterly cultivate. After absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for 3 days, his muscles, bones, internal organs, and cells became stronger and stronger. His vitality finally reached 2. 3. As for Luohan and Serene, they were also bitterly cultivating these 3 days. They didn't meet with Jiang Li and were completely immersed in their studies. After the AI chip was upgraded, it could use the AI to search for all kinds of information in Starry Sky University's library. This was like a treasure to people who love to study. Ding dong. 3 days of rest passed. The AI chip sounded, all students, please head to the freshman combat room to participate in the ranking competition. The first round will be an elimination round. Jiang Li quickly replied, I'm ready. Whoosh! Suddenly, an energy descended from the sky and swept him over. When the energy dispersed, he found himself in a sealed arena. This is really high-tech. Zhongli felt like he was in a Xinsha world. In the Starry Sky University's base, everywhere was controlled by energy. Energy wrapped around people and teleported them. Energy transported goods. Energy completed everything. Energy materialization. Humanity's divine manifestation was actually the gathering of powerful spirit energy together, connecting the illusory world and the material world, interfering with the material world. The moment Zhang Li arrived at the sealed arena, he looked around and found that the entire arena was enveloped by energy. He couldn't see the outside at all, and there were no spectators either. However, he knew that this energy was controlled by a huge AI. He had read the rules. The battles in the ranking competition were extremely cruel. In order to prevent casualties, every examinee would compete in a combat room formed from energy. As long as there was any danger, the AI would immediately stop it and give a score. This could reduce the number of casualties. Jiang Li stepped on the ground formed from energy. He found that it was as hard as steel and had the taste of colored glass. However, every second consumed a large amount of energy. Only Starry Sky University could afford to use this. Whoosh! At this moment, a ball of energy wrapped around another student and entered the room. The energy dispersed, revealing the student's true appearance. It was an Asian youth with a lazy expression and a frivolous smile on his face. Oh. My opponent is you. What's your name? My name is Mo Shiyun. My name is Zhang Li. Nice to meet you. Zhang Li hurriedly nodded, expressing his politeness. Rumble. At this instant, the frivolous Mo Shiyun seized the opportunity. He stomped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. His entire person became incomparably ferocious as he launched a sneak attack. This was a B-grade martial art, Ghost God Fist. The Ghost God Fist was the most suitable among all the B-grade martial arts for sudden attacks. There was one move that could appear and disappear like a ghost, simply a model for sneak attacks. Many students were passionate about cultivating this fist art. Once they succeeded in cultivating it, they would be able to unleash the Ghost God Fist, cleanly knocking down their opponent. Zhang Li's figure flashed, dodging this fist. He suddenly sent out a palm strike. This palm strike was light as a feather, but it danced up and down, making it impossible for others to see where the palm strike was coming from. 8 trigrams, thunder, wind, palm, wind, rising clouds. What is this? Mo Shiyun's fist struck empty air. He saw palm shadows flying over, yet he couldn't see Jiang Li's figure. He couldn't help but be shocked. Whirlwind scattered clouds. Rumble. Suddenly, Jiang Li changed midway, changing the wind rising floating clouds into whirlwind scattered clouds. Instantly, the wind howled and the palm shadows shook the sky. In an instant, Mo Shiyun's body suffered tens of palm strikes. Every palm strike completely destroyed his battle strength, but it didn't kill him. The palm shadows retracted. Jiang Li stood at his original position, while Mo Shiyun fell to the ground, unable to move even half a finger. Mo Shiyun's expression no longer had the slightest hint of cynicism. He gritted his teeth and said, "Powerful, truly powerful. I will remember you, Jiang Li." After that, he was enveloped by a ball of energy and sent out. First round, Jiang Li versus Mo Shiyun. Jiang Li won. Rest for half an hour, then proceed to the second round. A voice transmitted from the optical computer. Jiang Li was resting in this combat arena. Just now, Mo Shiyun's vitality was only 1.6. Naturally, he was easily defeated. Half an hour later, there was a sudden tremor, and a ball of energy sent another person in. Then the optical computer said, "Second round, begin." This student was actually a girl, smiling sweetly, wearing a well-ironed school uniform, looking valiant and heroic. Her ponytail was tied behind her back, brimming with youthfulness. "My name is Jiang Li. May I ask who you are?" Jiang Li still greeted politely, not sneaking an attack. Your age? So young." This girl was very young, not even 18 years old, only about 15 years old. She was actually able to pass the Starry Sky University's entrance exam in advance. She must be a genius among geniuses. Don't ask for my name. I won't tell you my name. The ponytail girl smiled. Because according to the rules of the ranking competition, only the winner can know the name of the loser. The loser can't know the name of the winner. This is to prevent the loser from holding a grudge because of the loss and taking revenge in the future. What if you take revenge on me after you lose? You are so sure that you will win. Zhongli laughed involuntarily, thinking that this little girl was very amusing. Of course. The ponytail girl's eyes flashed, and Zhongli felt a strong, youthful aura, brimming with enthusiasm. All right, time is running out. Let's begin. Zhongli clapped his hands together, executing the 8 trigram Thunder Palm stance. 8 trigram Thunder Palm? Wong family's martial arts. Fun, fun. The ponytail girl giggled. Don't tell me your surname is Wong. You actually know the essence of Wong family's martial arts? But you seem to have made some improvements to this martial arts, and the internal cultivation meditation method isn't the orthodox Thunder Palm, but another wind and thunder martial arts. Interesting. Using another internal cultivation method to control the Wong family's 8 trigram Thunder Palm. Aren't you afraid of going berserk? This little girl is amazing. Her eyes are very sharp. Zhongli was shocked. He had only executed one stance, and the little girl already knew so many things. Her eyes almost surpassed Wang Chongrong, and she was still a 15-years-old girl. Chapter 107. Come on, attack me. The little girl didn't strike any pose. She waved at Zhongli casually and confidently. Zhongli didn't slack off. The little girl's vitality was extremely strong, and her martial arts realm was unfathomable. She was definitely a difficult opponent. Even if his vitality was at 2, 3, he couldn't be careless. He didn't know which family's pride she came from. Some powerful families even use spirit stones to nurture their disciples from a young age, giving them extremely powerful combat strength. In the cultivation world, in Jiang Li's dream, those powerful sects even gathered spirit stones and set up a formation. They placed babies in the center to be cleansed. Rising winds and clouds. Jiang Li's footsteps were light as he used another move of the 8 trigram wind lightning palm. It was a confusing move. What a good move, rising winds and clouds. The little girl giggled. Her footsteps spun, and her voice was like a silver bell. However, her body was moving freely. She actually used the most difficult movement of the Ghost God Fist, Ghost Shadow, perplexing steps. Jiang Li struck out dozens of palms, but all of them missed. Whoosh! The little girl dodged the palm strike. Suddenly, she stretched out her arm and stabbed out with a finger. This finger was an ordinary immortal guides the way, but the energy surged as if there was a stellar energy shooting out from the tip of her finger. The finger energy was already close to Jiang Li's throat. Jiang Li's body flipped like a python, narrowly dodging the finger. He took a deep breath, and his body expanded like a toad. With a roar, his palm turned into raging thunder and lightning flash. It was a knife-hand attack. Every knife-hand attack was like lightning, cutting down in an arc and attacking the little girl fiercely. At this moment, he didn't care who his opponent was. He was completely immersed in the profoundness of martial arts. The little girl was a rare opponent. Raging thunder and lightning flash was the ultimate move of the Wong family's 8 trigram wind lightning palm. The Wong family's ancestor first simulated the arc of lightning in the sky and created this knife-hand attack. He meditated on lightning and combined it with the movement of his body. Once he started attacking, thunder would immediately rumble and lightning would tear apart the void. Facing this attack, the little girl's eyes suddenly lit up. She flipped her palm and slashed outwards. Immediately, the hand blades also formed lightning. It was actually the raging thunder and lightning move. Electricity against electricity. Clatter, clatter. Both of their arms slammed into each other, and in the span of 10 seconds, they had already clashed more than 200 times. Jiang Li felt that every time they collided, his opponent's arm was like a machine made of alloy. It was frighteningly hard, but at other times it was so soft that it was as if there were no bones in it. Rumble. The two of them separated. They each took 5 steps back. The little girl looked at Jiang Li suspiciously. Your life force is so strong. I actually underestimated you. You've also used spirit stones before? Without the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to temper your body, it's impossible for your muscles and bones to become so strong. Same here. After the fight, just now, Jiangli could already tell that the little girl's vitality was on par with his. It should also be 2. 3. However, his martial arts experience seemed to be higher than his. The next battle would be even more difficult. You have the potential to be in the top 10. The little girl smiled again. Her footsteps seemed light, but they were actually extremely heavy. Every step she took caused the ground to tremble, giving people a huge mental shock. At this moment, Jiangli didn't feel like he was facing a little girl, but a huge army charging at him, especially when he saw that with every step she took, a wave of air would appear under her feet. When a wave of air flashed past, it seemed like a lotus flower would bloom. A-grade martial art, lotus step. Once this martial arts footsteps were successfully cultivated, one would be able to use chi to move one's body. Every step would be mysterious and unpredictable, as if a Buddha had appeared in outer space to deliver all living beings from suffering. Every step would be extremely powerful, and the mental power and aura would be enough to pose a threat to one's soul, causing them to produce all kinds of illusions. This little girl was a hypnotist, and she was also in the meditative state. If she wasn't in the meditative state, Jiang Li wouldn't even need to make a move. He could directly use his mental power to defeat her. However, if she was also in the meditative state, it would be very difficult to hypnotize her, unless Jiang Li reached the great meditation in one go. Roar! Facing the little girl's lotus step, Jiang Li blasted out with his 8 trigrams thunder palm. Wind palm. Wind raises clouds. Wind sweeps away clouds. Strong wind grass. Thunder palm. Violent thunder lightning. 5 thunders strike. Thunder shakes the 9 heavens. With a circle of his hands, he struck out consecutively. Left and right, wind and thunder intertwined. Jiang Li had incorporated all the essence of the Great Emperor's Thunder Seal and Great Emperor's Wind Seal. With a fierce roar, he changed his moves at will, and palm shadows were everywhere. Impressive. Facing such a fierce attack, the little girl laughed. She used the Lotus Step secret art, and with a change of her hands, she blasted out another peerless martial art. A-grade martial art, heaven-shattering dragon elephant. It was actually the same A-grade martial art as Jiang Lu. However, Jiang Lu clearly hadn't cultivated it to perfection, while this little girl was skilled and at ease. With every punch, a giant elephant roared and a dragon roared. Every punch seemed to have the strength of a dragon and elephant. In ancient wuxia novels, there was a martial art called Dragon Elephant Prajna art. It was rumored that one punch had the strength of 10 dragons and 10 elephants. This was admittedly an exaggeration, but with a human's physical strength, 10 dragons and 10 elephants was just a small number. People with a 3-digit vitality could survive a nuclear explosion. So what could 10 dragons and 10 elephant count for? The heaven-shattering dragon elephant was similar to this martial art. The left hand was an elephant, the right hand was a dragon. With a single punch, the dragon and elephant intertwined. Each strike brought with it a huge rumbling sound, almost invincible. The two's palms collided, and an earth-shaking explosion was produced. Everywhere was filled with the sound of tearing. This kind of tearing sound could almost shatter the human body nearby. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, the system's energy rang out. A huge wave of energy separated the two. An emotionless voice came out from the AI. 2 tied, 1 point each. Each rest for 30 minutes, then proceed to the next round. Sigh, what a disappointment. The little girl shook her head with regret. This time, I met an evenly matched opponent. It was really satisfying. In the future, let's exchange pointers more. My surname is Tang, and my name is Yen. What's your name? My name is Jiang Li. Jiang Li thought about the energy that separated them just now. It was the system's judgment that if the two of them continued to fight they would definitely be injured. Hence, after thousands of calculations, the final conclusion was that it was a tie. I'll remember that, Jiangli. See you next time. The little girl waved her hand and was sent out by the energy. Surname Tang, and her martial arts are so powerful. Could she be from the Tang family? Jiang Li's body shook. There were many powerful families in the human world, but the Wang family stood at the top. Their leader was Wang Chao, the world's #1 during the era of the country. Later on, he became the first human to break 3 digits in vitality. And the Tang family was the family of Wang Chao's wife, Tang Zichen. When Wang Chao and Tang Zichen got married, if they had a son, their surname would be Wang, and if they had a daughter, their surname would be Tang. Hence, in 200 years, they developed into 2 powerful families. These 2 families were extraordinary. Although the Sun and Moon Corporation's Jiang family was powerful, they could not compare to either of them. Tang Zichen was rumored to be Wang Chao's master. Wang Chao's martial arts were all taught by her. Only such a powerful family could groom such a terrifying little girl. She could actually be on par with Jiangli. Moreover, her martial arts experience was obviously higher than Jiangli's. If she was also 18 years old, then Jiangli would not be her match. Tang Yin is amazing. Jiangli had gained a lot of martial arts experience from the battle just now. He slowly adjusted his breathing and thought about it. He felt that he had become much stronger and was very confident about the next battle. 30 minutes passed, and he was full of energy again. At this time, a ball of energy wrapped around a person walked in. It was a white man with a hooked nose and sharp eyes. The moment he saw Jiang Li, he launched a fierce attack. His vitality was about 1.8. The martial arts he practiced was a B-level martial art called Angel Battle Fist. This fist technique was the martial arts of the white race. There were a total of 12 movements, and each movement represented an angel. When practicing the fist technique and meditating, he would also meditate on the 12 blazing angels. These were the gods of Western civilization. Just like the Buddhas of Buddhism, each angel had the good wishes of mankind. Meditating on them could imbue this faith into one's body. Jiangli did not know much about this fist technique. Fortunately, the opponent's vitality was not strong. After 12 consecutive moves, he was sent flying by a palm. Another victory. After that, there would be a battle every 30 minutes. This ranking competition wasn't an elimination system, but a point system. It could ensure fairness to the greatest extent. Otherwise, if 2 experts with vitality above 2 met and one of them was eliminated, it would be meaningless. Every win was worth 2 points. Every loss was worth 0 points. If it was a draw, each person would get 1 point. The competition continued like this. After more than 10 rounds of competition, the top 10 people with the highest points would be chosen. Then, these 10 people would have an open battle and their names would be ranked. They would be given the corresponding treatment according to their ranking. If one could get first place, the reward would definitely be generous. Because every year, the first place of Star Sky University would receive a prize so valuable that people couldn't look straight at it. Sometimes it was spirit stones, sometimes it was a martial mecha, and sometimes it was even a small warship. It was the dream of the entire human race. Jiangli didn't care about spirit stones. He hoped to get a martial mecha so that he could travel freely on Emperor Star. If he could get a small warship, that would be even better. Piloting a warship would be safer. Of course, this small warship couldn't perform wormhole jumps. Its size was about the same as a fighter jet from more than 200 years ago. However, its structure and toughness were incomparable to a fighter jet. Warships could rush into volcanic lava and still travel freely. This was the great technology of mankind. However, this was the treatment of the first place. Jiangli felt that he couldn't get first place, but he didn't have wishful thinking about it. If he trained hard, he would surpass it sooner or later. ZZZ, a ball of energy sent the opponent in, and a new battle began. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.